Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call tonight's meeting of the Wethersfield Planning and Zoning Commission to order. And first order of business is roll call. Joseph Hammer here, Peter Lambruni here. Anthony Homicki is not here tonight. Chris Brecklin. Here. Tom Deane. Here. David Drake. Here. Dave Edwards. Here. Anna Laurie. Here. Rich Roberts will be joining us shortly. Crystal Cachola. Here. And Joe Ercolani. Here. Okay, thank you. So we have two public hearings tonight, two separate applications. Sorry about that. We have two public hearings tonight. The first one is going to be 184 Main Street, and the second one is going to be 100 Great Plain Lane. And I guess we possibly have, is 3.0 an actual public hearing tonight? Potentially? It is. Okay, so we may have three. But just in terms of the ground rules of how we proceed with public hearings, for those of you who haven't been here before, we begin by calling the applicant up to the podium, and the applicant has an opportunity to present the application, the details of the application. Commission members have an opportunity to ask questions during the course of the presentation. Town staff can comment, and then at the conclusion of that portion of it, there will be an opportunity for public comment, whether you're for, against, or somewhere in between. You have an opportunity to speak. I'll ask you to come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record before you begin. And just also, given the number of people that we have here, if other people have already said what your thoughts are, please do your best to try to be brief, and you can certainly say you agree with certain things that have been said before. Also would ask you to direct your comments or questions to the commission, and we will have an opportunity after the public comment to ask the applicant to respond to some of the questions or comments that have been made by members of the public. But it's through the commission rather than a direct dialogue between the public and the applicant. A couple other things I wanted to
call out who's going to be seated tonight.
What was I going to say? Once we close any public hearing, at that point, regardless of whether we vote that evening or not, we are not able to take any more information from the applicant or the public. So just keep that in mind if your particular hearing of interest is closed. With that said, the first application is 2230-26, 184 Main Street, special permit for change of use for a restaurant with outdoor dining, parking reduction, and alcohol sales. I'm going to ask the applicant to come up, and before we begin, as I think most of you on the commission were here back in January of this year when a prior application was made by this applicant for a restaurant use at this property. That application was denied. They've now come back, made some modifications to the application, which they will describe to us, but ultimately our charge at the end of these proceedings will be to determine whether or not those changes are substantial enough to change our determination of whether or not they comply with the standards of our regulations. With that, I would ask the applicant and his lawyer to please begin.
Hi, my name is Eric Elscroy. I'm the applicant for 184 Main Street for TJ Restaurant. First, I want to say thank you for members of Planning and Zoning Committee for the opportunity to present and revise the proposed application for 184 Main Street for TJ Restaurant. Also, I want to say thank you to everyone in the room here, and thank you to everyone of Wethersfield residents who have been supportive of us and have signed the petition signed for us, which I'll leave you for you to pass around if you'd like to.
Eric Gills, while that's loading, it'll be up in a minute. I was just going to add, so for just the benefit of the commission and the benefit of the audience and anyone else who's watching, as well as the people who saw the packet. So we have continued to receive information in response to staff comments. We've received a significant amount of testimony as recently as a half hour ago. For the commissioners, all of the information that we have received is in front of you. I think at a certain point, if I'm going to just give it a minute. At a certain point, we will need to go through the record because some of the responses just came in as recently as yesterday, and I do know that the fire marshal, the town engineer, and even myself have not had a chance to review all of them. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention that, subject to what happens tonight, it is likely that we might have to continue just to make sure that all of the comments, which I suspect are adequate, there's a very good chance we're going to have to continue for a decision. But given the amount of interest, I think that we should move forward with the hearing and at least start the discussion.
Okay, please continue.
We propose converting the existing commercial bed and breakfast building into a high-quality Southern Italian restaurant. Our focus is in fine dining, seamless community integration, and full compatibility with the historic district. Our management team brings over 100 years of combined restaurant experience. We are passionate about hospitality. We want to share authentic Sicilian cuisine and warm hospitality with residents of Old Wethersfield. At our previous meeting, we heard your feedback and the concerns of neighbors regarding parking, scale of the project, neighborhood impact, and other issues. Tonight, we will directly address each of these points with specific solutions and mitigations. We are not changing anything from the architectural standpoint of the building. As you see on the slide, I just want to show the 4 elevations of the building. We have on the east side the rear portion of the building. And I can point out, we have the garage door, which will convert it to the kitchen. That will be the entrance for the deliveries. We have the back door of the patio. In the west elevation, which is the front on the main street, we have the main door. The building is not changing. On the north side, where the patio will be added to it, we have another entrance in the middle of the patio, north side. In the south side, the only entrance will be the handicap accessible entrance only. And these are the renderings that we've used in our first historic meeting. Entrance in the south side elevation, as you see, will be only for the handicap. The ramp shows there. The patio is located in the north side of the building, facing Keene Memorial parking lot, and no any residential properties within sight seen. As you can see, the patio, the last picture, facing the north of the building. On the next slide, we have the site plan of the building. Based on the provisions and the recommendations and suggestions and concerns from the last meeting, we have come to a conclusion to deviate and present different plan. We are shifting the driveway 4 feet into our property line to enhance and put buffering with our property neighbors. We are reduced to 2 handicap parkings in the back of the parking lot. That's what we're required to have. We have the condensers and the trash removal. Also, we have a sidewalk that connects to Keene Memorial parking lot, which per town agreements will be for customers coming from the parking lot into the restaurant. We have the bollard lights, which they go along the driveway, and the accessible parking only in the rear, which is it goes in the front of the property. All of these changes have been approved by the Historic Commission. The bollard lights, the sign. On the next slide, we have the landscape architecture of the lot. To enhance the property and give the necessary buffering to our neighbors, the only 2 residential neighbors, we have added extensive landscaping and still blend in with the historic neighborhood. We are installing nearly 200 plants in addition to what's already there. This means 33% of the lot will be landscaped, far more than that's what's required. This will improve the aesthetic, provide screening, and contribute to the overall beauty on Main Street. On the next slide, we have the parking. Parking has been a big concern. As shown in this map, we have secured off-street parking to accommodate our projected volume. We will not rely much on street parking, and we have designed operations to minimize any impact on residential streets. And then you can see the orange pad on the screen is where the proposed parking lot will be. It's in the back of the Keene Memorial parking lot. They'll continue up to the west or towards Main Street, and they will connect to the building via the sidewalk that we are proposing and are in agreement with the town. I have included 500 feet of north of Main Street and 500 feet of south of Main Street to see what's around us. We are the star in the map. South of us, we have 2 residential buildings, mixed use, and businesses. And north of us, we have Keenan Memorial, 2 museums, and more businesses. In front of us, we have the fire department and the Old Town Cafe. And if you go another 500 feet in north of Main Street, you'll find more businesses. Odor control is a priority. We're installing capturate salt filtration system that approximately 85% efficient, far superior to standard 30% efficient filters that are widely used in town. This translates to 186% more efficient. This industry-leading solution will ensure that cooking odors are effectively captured and minimized for neighbors. This filtration system is used widely in multi-million-dollar neighborhoods around the country. Noise and disturbance. Reducing the capacity by 1/3 to original plan. Trash pickup between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. Deliveries 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Not the same day as trash pickup, and we will not have any delivery service such as DoorDash or Uber Eats. Another noise mitigation that we have carefully addressed is the AC condenser units. I want to emphasize that our AC units will be residential AC units, almost exactly the same units as what's out there for our residential neighbors. Our strategy includes buffering that will reduce the noise from the AC condenser unit by 12 decibels. This brings the equipment level or dBA well below the accepted levels of residential adjusted area. This slide shows the intended product and noise reduction internal covering for compressor unit. And if you see on the screen, we have the blanket, it's called a noise buffering blanket, which will go over the compressor. This reduces the noise of the compressor by 12 decibels. For comparison, a high-end dishwasher, Bosch dishwasher, a household dishwasher produces 50 decibels. Our condensers with the blanket will only produce 55 decibels. For neighbor privacy and comfort, we will retain and enhance the existing plexiglass window covering and add tinted film to it. In addition, we will add window curtains or blinds to ensure guests inside have a pleasant experience while protecting the privacy of neighboring property. And the picture there is a picture taken from the building itself. These photos document the current condition of the property. As you can see, we plan to make significant improvements to the interior. Our renovations will restore and upgrade the building while maintaining historic integrity and have this building continue to stand for another 200 years in Old Wethersfield. And lastly, I have pictures of Keenan Memorial parking lot that have been taken between our largest shift, which will be Friday and Saturdays between 5 and 7:30 p.m. As you can see from the pictures, the parking lot is barely full. And lastly, I want to say, Ortigia will be a high-end addition to Old Wethersfield. Respect historic character and scale, provide amplified parking and landscaping, use best-in-class odor and noise control, bring economic vitality, community gathering space for Old Wethersfield. Ortigia is backed by experienced team, committed to being a good neighbor. We have addressed almost all of the questions and concerns that were in the previous meeting. We respectfully request your approval so we can move forward with this existing project for us in Old Wethersfield. Thank you.
Thank you. Attorney Silver, did you have?
Yeah, I just wanted to add a few points as well. Thank you. For the record, Attorney Brian Silver with the law firm of Silver & Silver, LLP out of New Britain, Connecticut. I'm also a resident of the town of Wethersfield for the past 50 years. Obviously here in support of Mr. Croy and his application. As mentioned at the beginning, we did have an application submitted back in January of 2026, the beginning of this year, for a restaurant use. Mr. Croy has taken tremendous steps to modify this application to try to fit in better with the community and to address the concerns that this commission has presented. As he mentioned, the intensity of the use was one of the concerns that was raised. And to address that, Mr. Croy did agree to reduce the capacity of his restaurant by 1/3, which is going to be more than 1/3 of his profit. But he's willing to do that because he believes that this will fit in even better to the community. In addition, the reduction of the capacity does reduce the number of parking spaces that is needed, which is obviously a concern for everyone. As it stands right now, based on the capacity and the number of employees, there's a requirement for 43 parking spaces. That includes 35 parking spaces for patrons and 8 parking spaces for employees. Mr. Croy's proposal includes having all of the employee parking off-site, primarily at 383 Silas Deane Highway in Wethersfield. We have submitted an updated lease agreement for that facility, which is for 10 years with an option to renew it for additional 10 years. So it's up to 20 years of parking there. That particular use, based on the town regulations at 383, Silas Deane requires 12 parking spaces. There are currently 27 parking spaces at that site. So there's more than ample parking for his employees to park there. It's his intent, he also has his office there. That's where the restaurant office is going to be. So it's his intent that the employees are going to be using their punch clock and timing in, timing out from that facility to make sure that they're actually parking there. They're going to have the meetings there prior to the shifts. So we think that that's a good game plan for the employees. As far as the 35 spots that are needed for this use, we are asking for the commission for a parking waiver pursuant to section 6.2D5. As the commission's aware, the regulations have carved out a provision for this particular area, the Historic Village Business District. The town is aware that businesses that operate in Old Wethersfield have difficulty with on-site parking based on the size of the lots and the dimensions of the area. So there is a provision in the regulations which allow the commission to grant a waiver for that parking. And that is something that we're going to be asking for. As Mr. Croy mentioned, he has reached an agreement with the Town of Wethersfield. In your packet, there's a signed letter of intent from the town manager, Fred Presley, confirming that the town has agreed to seek approvals, and there's still a process involved. The town still has to get various agencies and commissions to approve this, but the town's proposal is to increase the parking area behind the Keeney Center. They have agreed to enter into a license agreement with Mr. Croy for consideration that he would need to pay for to allow for 27 additional parking spaces. They did agree, the town also agreed to put up signage indicating that that parking spaces can be used by the restaurant. So out of the 35 spaces that we need, 27 of them are located right next door. And I'm sure you're familiar with the area, but 184 Main Street is somewhat unique to the rest of Old Wethersfield and Main Street because it is right next door to the Keeney Center. Part of this license agreement also includes a 5-foot wide pedestrian pathway from 184 Main Street to the parking area of the Keeney Center. And the town has agreed that that license area, including the 27 spaces and the 5-foot wide pathway, would continue for as long as the restaurant's open. So it's Mr. Croy's intent that the bulk of his customers would be able to park in the additional parking at the Keeney Center, walk right through the adjacent pedestrian pathway into his restaurant. There's also, as everyone is aware, there's parking across the street at the fire station. There's also 232 on-street parking spaces available. So to come up with the additional, the minimal number of additional spaces that are needed, we think that this proposal does comply with what's needed for the approval of that parking waiver. Additionally, Mr. Croy did enter into another lease agreement with the property, which is about a half mile down Main Street. It's at 1 Wells Road. It's about a 9-minute walk from the restaurant. He has a lease there, which is part of your packet, for 10 years, and that has up to 20 spaces, which he doesn't need all of that additional parking, but it's going to be additional parking that is going to be available to his customers. He's going to let them know, via online media, via the menu, via wait staff. All of the patrons will be alerted that in addition to Keeney Center parking, there is going to be parking just a 9-mile walk down the street as well, which will hopefully minimize the on-street parking and some of the concerns that the neighbors have with parking in front of their homes. The commission obviously needs to deal with Article 8, which is the very specific special permit requirements. The town has set forth a bunch of permitted uses in the historic business village. Those permitted uses all require special permits. The types of uses that have been codified as being permitted with a special permit in the village business district are offices, daycares, banks, credit unions, financial institutions, retail stores, personal service establishments, banquet halls, fraternal organizations, breweries, brew pubs, sit-down or take-out restaurants, and several others. We are asking for the special permit to be a permitted use in this particular area. Now, in Old Wethersfield, and primarily in the historic business village district, it's somewhat of a unique location. Article 8 for special permits is a town-wide regulation. So it doesn't matter if you're in Pikewide Village, Silas Deane Highway, we all have to comply with this. In the historic business district, there's a whole nother layer of approval, which is the Historic District Commission. HDC has their hands on everything that happens in this particular area. And Mr. Croy has already submitted all of this to HDC, and they already approved this. So many of these factors, 8.1 through 8.9, have already been addressed by HDC, but I'd like to go through them very quickly. I don't want to take up too much time, but as far as whether or not this is a suitable location, which is the 8.1 prong, we need to confirm that this proposed use is in harmony with the orderly development and area and compatible with other existing uses. And as Mr. Croy pointed out in slide number 8, if you take a look 500 feet north and 500 feet south of his restaurant, there's a lot of other commercial businesses, including restaurants. So we do believe that this proposed use in this particular location is in harmony with that area. Section 8.2 deals with neighborhood compatibility. This particular provision is designed to make sure that the design elements of any particular use are in harmony with the proposed development and suitable for this area. Again, I'm going to emphasize that the Historic District Commission has already flushed this out through several meetings, through significant amount of input from HDC. These plans that have been presented now to you have already been approved as being harmonious with the historic area of that particular location. Section 8.3 deals with the appropriateness of the structures and the landscaping. Once again, the structure itself is not changing. As Mr. Croy indicated, the facade is going to remain intact, including the purple front door, which is something HDC asked for. All of the landscaping has already been approved by HDC to comply with what they wanted to see happen in this historic district area. So we do believe that this proposal is appropriate with respect to the structure and the landscaping. Section 8.4 deals with the suitable access and parking. As I mentioned, for the parking, the fact that we are directly adjacent to the Keeney Center with a letter of intent to give us a license agreement to use a 5-foot wide pedestrian pathway to that parking area, we do believe that complies with that prong as well. And then 8.5 deals with the overall circulation to make sure the proposed use does not impede with the, quote, circulation plan of the Wethersfield Plan and Conservation and Development. We don't see any impeding based on this proposal. 8.6 deals with adequate public utilities. The town wants to make sure that the water supply, sewage disposal, and stormwater drainage will confirm with accepting engineering practices. The town engineer, the fire marshal have made comments about some of the real technical details which have already been addressed, and if they haven't been addressed, they will be addressed. So there's not going to be any issues with the water supply, sewage, or stormwater drainage. 8.7 deals with the environmental protection and conservation. We need to confirm that the proposed use has no negative impact on the natural features or drainage basins of the area. And again, what Mr. Croy is seeking to do is not altering the drainage or the natural features of the area. Section 8.8 addresses the consistent with purposes to make sure that the proposed use will not have a detrimental impact on public health, safety, welfare, or property values. Property values is an important piece. Mr. Croy's been doing some research, and it's become quite evident that the addition of commercial businesses in Old Wethersfield has actually increased property value. So we truly don't believe that this restaurant use is going to have a negative impact on the property values in that area. And then lastly, the 8.9 other considerations. The town needs to confirm that lighting and signage are compatible with the area. Again, all of the proposed lighting and signage has already been presented to HDC, which governs this area, and they've approved it. Same thing with landscaping and screening. And lastly, that the proposed development contains appropriate provisions for handicapped persons. As Mr. Coy indicated, there are going to be 2 designated handicap spaces, which is what's required. There's also going to be a handicapped accessible ramp, which is what's required. So he's certainly complying with ADA requirements. So based on Article 8, we do believe that this particular use is an appropriate use in this area.
Attorney Silver, just directing you, there's one more 8-9D that you didn't address.
Let me pull that up. Would you be so kind to let me know what 8.9D is?
Sure, that one says the use, I'm shortening just the relevant parts. I think that the use will not result in excessive numbers or proximity of like uses or incompatibility with neighboring uses. It's got some other standards in it as well.
Okay. Well, our position is similar to what was shown on slide 8 as far as the neighboring uses. This is the downtown business village district. Yes, it's a mixed use area, so of course there are neighbors here that it's going to have an impact upon. But as far as complying with the overall business district area, we do think that it does comply.
Just one point of clarification that, the HDC, as you know, looks at buildings, structures, lighting, patios, physical objects that are going to be visible from the street in the historic district, but their jurisdiction is not over the use
Correct.
itself, which is ours. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else to add?
Anything
Is there
else?
any commission,
from your-
any questions from the commission?
I'll open it up there.
Yeah, I think we're all done with our preliminary
Any
presentation.
commission members, please take this opportunity if you have questions. Anyone? I guess I'll go ahead, Chris, and then Pete, or either.
Go ahead.
Just my first question, I'll probably have more, I always do, is sort of about the dumpster location. I think there was one of the memos was referenced. I feel like I've heard a couple of different iterations of where the dumpster is going to be located, and sort of, you mentioned the change in the hours of expected sort of pickup, but one of the main differences, sort of the closest analog in terms of a restaurant like this is the Charles kind of across the street. Their dumpster is a straight shot across a short driveway with a good distance from the neighboring property. This sort of, the truck will have to come down a pretty long driveway to pick up the dumpster into the back and everything. So what kind of mitigation, and is that pad that you're planning to put accessed from that driveway still?
Yeah, so if you're looking on the screen, I'm just going to point at it. I'm not sure if you can see this. Should
I
come
can't,
this way?
yeah.
Let me just come this way. So if you look at right over here, this is where the dumpsters will be. So the truck company will come straight through here, pick up the dumpsters, backward here, and go straight forward out.
Okay, so they're not backing out the whole
No,
way?
they're not backing out.
And is there any other mitigation? I think I saw a fence on the plans.
Correct. So
Okay.
the other thing, let me just come through here. So in the plans, all this line here from the face of 180 Main Street all the way through down here will be fence and arborvitae. Let me just go to the next screen. So if you look at it, there's fence and arborvitae all around it here. This is the dumpster location. This is the condenser locations. And this is more plantation that we will add into it. So they will come straight through here, pick up the dumpsters, back here, and then go straight forward to the Main Street. And everything has been, the turning radius has been submitted to the engineer, by our engineer, so everything it's updated.
Okay. Thank you. And then my other question is, have the updated plans been approved by the HDC?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Attorney Silver, you mentioned that the town does not have approvals to make that parking lot in the back. Is that correct?
I don't work for the town, so I don't want to misrepresent something that the town attorney may have told me, but I do believe that there are steps that the town has to take to get the approvals to get that done, whether it's HDC approval, whether it's getting it in front of P&Z. I do believe there are steps that need to be taken. They wouldn't be taken by me, so I don't know what those steps exactly are.
Well, I'm trying to understand if this is a new move by the town, or if this is what the town has been planning for a long time. Because we know for a fact that that whole area is being reviewed by the town. We saw something a few years ago saying that, maybe they'll put some parking back there, maybe they'll redo something with the adjoining restaurant there, Lucky Lou's. So is that what you're referring to, that potential? Or is the town, because of what you are suggesting here, the town has agreed to accelerate and put something in there? I'm trying to understand.
Sure. So
Maybe that's a question to you.
And I will say, I'm not the authoritative source on this, but there were 3 different projects that all had the potential of impacting the Keeney Center parking lot as it is today, as well as future improvements, including the possibility of expanded parking. The timing of those 3 different projects, I believe there's 2 state funding sources that are matched with local funding sources, and one of them involved the trail that's coming over from the Putnam Bridge. So they were all somewhat tied together, and I think the schedule was contingent upon the funding and when the funding would be in place. And so I think the answer is yes. There are plans to increase parking in Old Wethersfield, and I think that this would be the plan, or is the plan, if and when the funding becomes available. And so that, I'm comfortable saying that, but whether or not it was the possible agreement or the potential agreement to accelerate it, I don't know if that's the answer. But this would be, I have seen these plans for the expansion of the Keeney lot in some fashion or form for all 3 of those projects.
I think we saw this like 2 or 3 years ago, right? When they talked about redoing the walkway and all that. So it's been 3 years in the making already. So I guess I'm trying to understand, how real is this? And if it doesn't happen for the next 5 years, what does that mean to their application?
It's a good question. I have a similar question about what would happen, what would a parking solution be absent of this? And just to clear up the process, so I have been in discussions with the town engineer and the town manager that an 8-24 would be required, I should say, would likely be required at this point based on everything we know to expand the parking lot, which would come back before this commission.
Just to be clear, 8-24 is when the town council is being asked to enter into a lease or a license agreement, that's a advisory referral to this commission to consider whether we believe that it's something that the town should enter into, in the use of town property. And if we give a negative referral, then it has the effect of requiring a 2/3 vote by the town council in order to approve it, as opposed to a majority vote.
And if I may address that question also. So the town had a master plan, so you are correct that this parking expansion is something that's been on about for years. What is relatively new and is what is unique to the property owner at 184 Main Street is an agreement with the town to allow a license area, which includes that 5-foot wide pedestrian pathway, it's not part of the master plan, to connect 184 Main Street to the parking. And based on the funding provided by 184 Main Street, they would expedite and expand it with gravel. It's not a permanent solution yet. My understanding is we're talking about gravel for that 27 parking spaces. And once the town is finished with the state funding goals and whatnot, at some point it's going to get paved, I believe. But what we're talking about right now, that 27 spaces would be gravel for now.
So in the meantime, before the gravel goes down, I don't know if that takes a couple years, what do you plan on doing with the parking? Were you going to use the Keeney Center? Is that what you're proposing? I mean, in reality, I'm trying to understand what the practicality of this proposal is. If that doesn't happen, then you're essentially going to be using the Keeney Center, right? Like the previous application.
It would be my expectation that any approval which this commission gives would be contingent on that occurring.
So you'd be okay with a condition that says approval is only if the gravel is put down?
And can be used for parking. I mean,
Okay.
that is the plan.
Okay.
Correct.
I'm just trying to
And we do
I'm trying to understand what you're asking us. Okay, that clarified it for me. By the way, if you have parking on Wells, was it Wells Road? By the side of Deane, does that give you sufficient parking if
It does.
if you use everything that they have?
No.
No?
No, we're entitled to have 20 cars there.
Okay.
It does limit the amount of on-street parking requirements, for sure. But it wouldn't be completely sufficient. We couldn't rely, or we wouldn't plan on relying solely on that parking.
I have a question. The license agreement that you're seeking from the town is a non-exclusive license, meaning that any member of the public would have the right to park in any of those 27 spaces, correct?
is my
Not necessarily just people going to the restaurant.
Correct.
And another question related to parking would be, on those occasions where, let's say, there's a wedding reception at the Keeney Center and they have a couple hundred people attending it on a Saturday night, if they're filling up the majority of that lot, what would your plan be for that situation?
I believe the patrons would be directed to One Wells Road primarily.
Patrons will get a confirmation reservation. When they get the confirmation with a reservation, they'll get information where to park. And if we have an event at Keeney Memorial, we'll make sure to tell the customers that this is the easiest parking location to get to 184.
Have you researched at all in the frequency of Keeney events, how often they have them, how they're frequently booked, what days of the week, how many people they have attending?
So this is the Keeney Memorial for 2026. This is what they have.
Yeah, so that definitely covers public-type programs, but I'm referring, I know that private parties can rent it out for a wedding or a funeral reception or birthdays, anniversaries, those kinds of things.
Yeah, so I did go to Keeney Memorial. They said they have only 4 events that occur every year, and private events, like they had Taste of Wethersfield, which we hope to be part of that next year as well.
Yeah, again, I don't know if you're following. I'm just saying it's open to members of the public for whatever, $500 to rent it, and you can invite 150 people for your 50th anniversary. Have you looked into that schedule of events? Because those will vary from year to year.
I believe the plan is to have a pretty good relationship with the Keeney Center. I mean, these things aren't publicized online or in their brochure, so
Right,
we're not going to know
right.
those dates. So I believe the intent would be to have a clear line of communications that he can advise his customers. If the customers have nowhere to park, they're not going to be able to eat there. So it's his goal to make sure that they have sufficient parking, and clearly not on-street parking, because that's not beneficial to anyone. So I believe he's going to be able to find out if there are these private events in advance to let customers know what the parking options are.
I do have the contact information of the executive director of Keeney Memorial to be in contact with them once we get approved for the special events they have.
Any other commission? Yes, Crystal.
Is the parking that you're planning to put in the gravel lot, is that going to be exclusive for your patrons, or is there going to be signage that is just for them, or can anyone use those spaces? I thought I saw somewhere it was exclusive for your...
So I believe the most recent draft of the license agreement indicates it's non-exclusive,
Okay.
but that the town was going to be posting signs indicating that restaurant parking is available there.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yes, sorry.
Will there be transportation to the 20 spaces at Wells Street? The idea, if it's raining or something, would you provide your 3-row SUV to pick people up if they call you?
Yeah, absolutely. In bad weather, absolutely would be able to pick them up and bring them to 184.
Because that takes away 20 spaces of your 35. So I'm just worried about it. The people who won't walk 9 minutes, that if they call you or if they have a reservation, I'm going to park at Wells Street, I'll be there at 7:30. Can you have someone pick me up?
Absolutely. Okay, we can offer that, absolutely.
Yeah, does anybody, has the town ever done like a really rough study, how many spaces are open in a Keeney on a typical night? I know you're talking about 3 or 4 big events they may have, and you don't want to tell a guy he can't bring his business in because you have 3 or 4 screwed up nights, but every time I'm there, there's a lot of spaces there.
This is actual pictures of Keeney Memorial parking lot.
No, I understand, but that's just one night. I'm just saying, has anybody looked at a whole year and, is it?
I submitted pictures to David, roughly about 4 or 5 months of Keeney Memorial parking lot.
Yeah.
So and it always looks like this.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, I kind of agree with you, but I know there's events, but again, I
There are currently
don't want
100
to tell you can't have a business because there's 4 nights that get out of hand, because that's always going to happen. Okay.
I think about 10 years ago, there was a study, I think it was done by the town, maybe it was by an applicant, that looked at all of the on-street parking spaces up and down Main Street, and I believe included the Keeney, but I don't think I've seen anything along those lines since then.
Yeah.
But it looked in
No, I mean, a
detail.
few events, when I go to during the course of the year, and I park at Keeney, Seems like there's always spaces there, but I mean, it gets filled up, but, yeah.
And any other commission members at this point?
One other question, I think it goes back to maybe the last meeting we had, the question of where the property line is. Have you guys worked that out with the adjacent owner to you? And, I mean, is this an A2 survey, and is it now certified? And
It's better than that. You got the A2 and a T2 survey done in July of 2025. That's what these plans are all based off of.
so what you're presenting is the accurate location of that line between the two properties, correct? And you're going to move it 4 feet from that line?
The driveway.
The driveway, you're going to reposition the driveway 4 feet?
Correct.
And you're going to put plants in that little strip that you create?
Correct, and a fence.
And the fence, yeah. Thank you.
But did you say what type of plants?
Arborvitaes. It is a sign from the landscape architect with all of the plans that's there. I believe it's 34 arborvitaes and roughly about 200 additional plans that we are adding into it.
If there's no further commission questions at this point, there'll be an opportunity later for commission members. I'm going to put it out to the public at this point, so if you'd like to take a seat, and we will get back to you at the end of public comment. At this point, yes, if you want to just come up, ma'am, to the podium, and please state your name and address. And if you want, you can just line up, whoever would like to speak, and we'll take you right after each other.
Good evening, Chair and member of the board. My name is Ivana Marrero, and I live at 525 Jordan Lane. I'm also the Executive Director for the Wethersfield Chamber of Commerce. I'm here to express my strong support for allowing Ortigia, the Italian restaurant on Main Street, and to share why this would be a meaningful benefit to our neighborhood, our town, and our local economy. Main Street is the heart of our community. Restaurants don't just serve food, they create gathering places. An Italian restaurant in particular encourages people to linger, connect, and enjoy the town rather than simply pass through it. It brings warmth, culture, and life to the street, especially in the evenings, which helps Main Street feel more vibrant, safe, and welcoming. From an economic standpoint, this restaurant would support local jobs, increase foot traffic, and benefit nearby businesses, shops, services, and other restaurants alike. When people come to dine, they often shop before or after, which strengthens the entire district. This kind of investment signals confidence in our town and further encourages revitalization. Tourism is another important factor. Visitors are drawn to towns with character, charm, and unique dining experiences. An Italian restaurant adds to that appeal. It becomes a destination, something people recommend to family and friends, helping to put our town on the map while reinforcing its identity as a place worth visiting and spending time in. Just as importantly, this restaurant aligns with the scale and character of Main Street. It is a compatible use that complements the surrounding area, respects the neighborhood, and enhances the overall streetscape rather than detracting from it. In short, approving this restaurant is not just one business, it's about investing in the vitality of our Main Street, supporting our local economy, and enhancing the quality of life for residents and visitors alike. I respectfully ask the board to consider the long-term positive impact that this will have on our community and to support this application. Thank you for your time and for your service to our town.
Thank you. Anyone else who'd like to speak on the application, please come up to the podium.
And I will just take a minute. So we did continue to receive comments and testimony. So, and I can go through it, but there's a number of individual pages on your desk. So that is all the comments or testimony that we received since Friday through 4:30 today.
I would just note that Commissioner Roberts is present as well. Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Connie DiGiacomo, 270 Brimfield Road. And I've been a resident here in Wethersfield since 2002, and I'm here to express my support for the proposed Southern Italian restaurant here in Old Wethersfield. I believe strongly that our town would benefit from some additional dining options, particularly something unique and higher end that can attract visitors and provide residents with more choices closer to home. I believe we've all seen how A vibrant restaurant destination can strengthen a local community, increase foot traffic to nearby businesses, and make a community more engaging for residents as well as visitors. I believe this proposal in particular represents an investment in one of our historic properties, repurposing this existing building into a thoughtfully designed restaurant that aligns with preserving the character of Old Wethersfield, while also allowing it to evolve and remain economically viable. At the same time, I understand and appreciate the concerns that have been raised about the parking, but I believe from what I've seen, these concerns are real, do deserve consideration, but the applicant has made some serious adjustments, including reducing the seating capacity, as well as proposing the multi-site parking solution with the off-site parking on Wells Road, as well as the work with the town. I would urge the commission to continue working collaboratively with the applicant to refine these solutions rather than viewing the parking as an insurmountable barrier. Other communities have shown that with creative planning, such as shared parking, off-site arrangements, and operational controls, these challenges can be successfully managed. Ultimately, I think this is a great opportunity to strike the right balance within this community, responsible economic development here in Wethersfield while addressing practical concerns in a thoughtful way. I respectfully encourage the commission to give this proposal serious consideration and to work toward a path that allows it to move forward in a way that benefits both the neighborhood as well as the broader community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Yes.
Hi, my name is Marianne Lindquist. I live at 46 Oldham Road here in Old Wethersfield, and I've been a resident of Wethersfield for 69 years. Yikes, right, Julie? So, lived in 5 homes in Wethersfield, 4 of which are in Old Wethersfield, and I'm back in Old Wethersfield. And grew up in Old Wethersfield, walking to Wells School, which is now Keeney School. Literally, I have been walking on Main Street in Old Wethersfield for my entire life since I was 5 years old. Even when we moved to Stonegate Drive, I drove back down to Old Wethersfield to walk around to attractions, the Green and Main Street. Certainly, this 3 blocks of Main Street has been an integral part of my life. Went to the Pikewag Inn, you know, root beer floats at the Main Street Drug. I've seen so many businesses come and go. And to me, the most depressing part, the saddest part, was always a building or a property in transition, like languishing. Like we've seen certain buildings that have been sold or not sold, and they're just sitting there waiting for approvals, and that's like super sad. When Julie and Tommy bought the Grange, where I used to go to the Grange Fair, that brought that building to life. It was just so exciting to me. And when I think of, you know, when friends and family come to visit me or my family in Wethersfield, one of the things that we look for is food on Main Street. At the Charles, Ascot Catering catered my daughter's graduation. We had my mother's service at the Charles, and lots of food memories. Love the Main Street Creamery. So when this property, which I think has been for sale since 2009, but I could be wrong, don't quote me, I don't have a bunch of facts and figures, I'm just speaking from my heart. I knew that his heart wasn't in still owning that building, and what's super important, pardon my voice shaking here, but I just feel like such a passion for this town. What's super important to me is good stewardship, and when I read this application, I'm like, wow, this person seems like he would be a really good steward for the Chester Buckley House, and I appreciate everything that you guys are going through. I can't even, this is really my first P&Z meeting here. I've gone to the historical district meetings lots for my own home, but it's just a monumental amount of work that you have to do to balance the very real concerns of neighbors that I've heard, and I'm not minimizing parking concerns and lighting concerns by any stretch of the imagination. I just wanted to give my heartfelt, you know, support for this business and all the work that you've done. And I really think that with the current climate of the United States right now, it's just so easy to have people on both sides of the aisle, and it's so important now to just work together. And if you have a problem, to kind of offer a solution. And I look at the other 27,000 people in town too, and how much this would benefit them. And there's certainly, I know you've worked through a lot, and both sides have worked through a lot, but, and I know parking seems to be an issue. Anecdotally, I can tell you that in, almost 70 years of walking Main Street, I always look to the Keeney parking lot, and it's so underutilized, in my opinion. No matter how many times the Charles says, park, we have parking here, they put it on their website, everybody park, they want to be right there. And I think of myself, I go to Northampton for the Charm and the restaurants, and I pay to park. I go to Essex, and I park at the town hall, and that's 0.6 miles away. I looked at it today, I'm like, how far do I park to walk over? And it doesn't bother me. And certainly if we had brought my mom, we would drop her off in front and then park. So, Chester, same thing, park in the town parking lot and walk over. So it just seems to be not an insurmountable issue. And let me look at my notes, see if there's anything I forgot. I think I've covered most of it. I think we should be welcoming neighbors too, and I've seen, I played at Marcy Moeller's house, and some of you remember the Moellers, and then I watched it burn and sit with a tarp over it for so many years, and then I watched the Aphorismos bring it back to the center of our town, and then I watched the neighbors drive them away. And that was so sad because they really resurrected that house. So I think that we all need to be welcoming. People might say, oh, we should have a little boutique in there. It's hard for boutiques to make it in a little town. It just is. Businesses, that really doesn't excite me to see offices in a building like that. But something like this, I think really does excite people, and it excited me. And I hope that everybody can find a way to make it happen. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Yes, sir. Please come up.
Good evening. I'm Rob O'Connor, and I live at 180 Main Street, the aforementioned street house, adjacent to the driveway that serves 184 Main Street. Before I submit my comments, I agree with the Chamber of Commerce and everybody that supports business. I'm a very firm supporter of business. I own a business, a small business. I support vibrant businesses in Wethersfield. I support the investment in our community, thoughtful, adaptive use of historic properties, and the success of Main Street businesses. I've lived there 10 years, and people talk about investments and how people are going to come in and invest. Well, the homeowners around that area in Old Wethersfield also have investments. I've invested in my property, and I think if you could ask the local restaurants around whether they know me or not, and whether Aroma Bistro knows my order once a week, I think it lives up to that. I'm not a oppositional person to restaurants. This is not opposition to a business, and it's not opposition to restaurants. Rather, I respectfully believe the Commission's responsibility tonight is to determine, as the Chairman stated, whether this particular location satisfied the standards, especially compatibility and adjoining residential properties, parking, circulation, buffering, public safety, and intensity of use. All the Article 8 items. The intensity of use was brought up, and I think that it was a pretty strong reason that the Commission voted 9-0 last time to reject the application. That unanimous outcome reflected serious concerns regarding all those Article 8 items. So my first question remains, what has materially changed in this application? I appreciate the revisions that have been made. Seating has been reduced. The applicant has attempted to respond to some concerns, but after reviewing the latest packet, I respectfully believe that many of the same core issues remain unresolved. Ultimately, this isn't about intentions and what they are saying they're going to do. This is about whether this site in this location can reasonably support this level of activity and intensity. Even with the revisions, the proposal still includes a 99-person restaurant, indoor and outdoor dining, alcohol service, deliveries, refuse handling, kitchen exhaust, grease management, staff shifts, lighting, night activity, parking spread across multiple locations and multiple agreements. And the application says, we describe this as a quiet upscale restaurant, but respectfully, quiet intentions don't necessarily equal quiet outcomes. You can reduce the seats, but the restaurant still is operating the same thing as what would be as a 138-seat restaurant. It's going to be the same level of intensity. The latest packet, and I'm sure I'm only one of the few that have read the whole packet, but that packet, as the town planner mentioned, had staff materials and showed that there were important issues that are still evolving. The town staff continue to identify and request clarification on things like the parking, delivery circulation, which we've heard about, refuse operations, landscape, parking waivers. So these are not simply a neighbor's concerns. These are the technical issues raised by our town staff. They're the ones that have reviewed this. And I think before granting any kind of special permit, I think and believe that the commission should be confident that these operational issues are fully resolved, not deferred. Parking remains one of the clearest examples. The site itself provides, as we've heard, two parking spots. The proposal depends on off-site employee parking, shuttle transportation, customer compliance. Ask people that live around the Charles how people comply to the requests. We know that this is one of the things that the policing is left up to residents. Signage and website instructions, municipal parking, remote parking, and a future town-related agreement that we've heard about. Respectfully, this proposal appears to reduce the numbers on paper while increasing the operational assumptions in practice. Most of the explanation of the application was all the things that have to get done just to operate a restaurant. That is the intensity that we're talking about. And the gravel parking lot, which was mentioned, is not even built. As it was also mentioned, the sidewalk connections are not built. Some of the town-related parking arrangements depend on future approvals or future agreements. So I would ask, should future or not yet constructed infrastructure be treated as if it already supports an application? And I think the answer is up to you guys, but I think that's one of the things that was mentioned. Can you count on things that don't exist yet to make an approval? And especially in Article 8, where you have to make an affirmative approval to say this is not going to affect the situations. As I mentioned, the gravel parking lot, and this is a neighborhood thing. This is not just me and my back neighbor. The applicant stated that nobody can see the thing from the north. There's 3 or 4 houses that view that patio from the east side, and there's people surrounding that parking lot that are going to hear the gravel when it's done. Watch a basketball court be taken away from the recreational facility that we have back there. It's one of the few things that's right there for kids and old people that take their grandchildren. So at some point, I think the question becomes, is this site being adapted to fit the use, or is the surrounding neighborhood being asked to adapt to the limitations of the site? The fire marshal also had comments. I don't think they were mentioned. I know that it's another indication of not just a modest continuation of the prior bed and breakfast use. I know we saw a picture of the place stripped out. It's going to have changed. The fire marshal is saying it's going to be identified as a A2 assembly occupancy, and will now need an NFPA 13 sprinkler system, a commercial system, and second floor egress and occupancy limitations. The fire marshal, I think, had stipulated that only 50 people can be upstairs and that there's only one safe egress. So I think these things are not just like theoretical things, they're real life situations. I only have like 25 pages left, don't worry. These comments reinforce that This is a substantial change in use, intensity, and building function, and I respectfully ask the Commission to consider the appropriateness of locating a substantial commercial kitchen operation immediately adjacent to a restaurant, to a residence, and other residences and historical properties. The proposal is not simply dining tables and number of people in the seats and parking. It's a commercial kitchen with cooking equipment, exhaust and ventilation systems, grease management. I don't know what page on the plan, the grease traps, but the grease trap is coincidentally located on my almost on my property, not on that side. It's some of the things that I don't understand, but we mentioned refuse handling, the mechanical systems, and the operational activity that accompanies restaurant service. It's never a quiet thing. If you're having a quiet restaurant and you're trying to stay in business, I've been in business 40 years. It's quiet is not good for a restaurant. I mean, you need intensity, and it's in this location, I don't think can handle it. I think it's fair to ask if this intensity of a commercial kitchen operation is appropriate at this level of proximity to adjoining residential homes and museums and things like cooking odors, ventilation impacts, mechanical noise, grease handling, and all these other things. They're real-world operational problems, and they have impacts along that driveway and the other side, on the Keeney side. This is where daily activity would occur in that driveway, as some people have mentioned. Deliveries, the garbage trucks, truck maneuvering, headlights, noise, backup alarms, because now we know that the truck cannot back up out of the driveway. It's going to have to do a 3-point turn in the driveway. And service activity directly next to residential windows in historic homes and living areas, backyards. I submitted this picture. I don't think anybody can see it. I don't know if it can be pulled up as a speaker in public, but this is what it looks like when a truck parks next to your kitchen window when you're having your coffee. This 9 to 11 for garbage delivery and it's not a small thing. It's a real life problem. I submitted some other photos and even a video. The day that the meeting that was canceled, the day before, this truck came into the driveway and happened to do the maneuver to back up, pull by the where the dumpsters are supposed to be located, back up probably with the butt end of the truck on my property, beeping and alarming, and then swung out, and that's the parking. And that's probably the typical one use, and it's like, I think for myself and other people that are in there, it's not just a theoretical issue. So,
Mr. O'Connor, just for there is a picture of that in the Commission's packet, and it was posted on the packet online. It's about halfway through. If anyone wants to see it.
Here?
Yes, on the packet in front of you.
The videos were there too, but I don't think my description is probably close enough. The other thing I want to talk about was buffering and some of the accommodations that were maybe made to address the proximity and the driveway. And I also included this with my scratchy left-handed writing. And it's the landscape plan. At the bottom of the plan, it says 15-foot buffer business to residential. And it states, this must be the Wethersfield Regulation 6.1, 1-1 or I-1. And when a commercial property gets built or installed next to a residence, we have a regulation that they have to put a 15-foot buffer in. And the applicant actually acknowledges that. And where they put it is in the backyard where my house isn't. But the 15-foot buffer runs right down the driveway. So my question would be, the applicant's own landscape plan refers to this buffer. Along the residence, the proposal appears to rely on a fence placed essentially at the property line, while the paved driveway itself is acting as a buffer. And to me, that is not what a setback buffer is. That driveway is the 15-foot barrier that they have to start any kind of plan on. So that's in the packet also. The driveway carrying commercial activity is not the same thing as a meaningful residential buffer. The 15-foot business to residential buffer is appropriate elsewhere in the site, in the backyard. Why does the most operationally active edge adjacent to a residence appear to receive the least amount of actual separation? I know this is in the landscape plan too. I want to mention a little bit about finding out about a 6-foot fence being built 6 inches off your property line with arborvitae, and it being pitched as a buffer for me, or a remediation of noise. I know they had the landscape page up that showed all the arborvitae in my house. I did my own creative diagram, unpaid landscape work, and this is not meant to be a suggested fix, but it's just an example of what could have been done, which is flip the fence and the arborvitae around on the other side of the 15-foot buffer on the driveway, and remediate where the sound and the noise and the activity and the intensity are coming from. They're not coming from my house. Like this fence is proposed as remediation, but it's not remediation. It's like trapping us in our house, basically. It probably also has it has potential of enhancing the noise, like sound off a fence goes up into your second floor bedrooms. So it's just, I wanted to point it out because it's a design choice. It could have been done, and it wasn't done. And as a side little piece on, I know that they've mentioned the HDC meeting and their approval. And I did send a letter to the commission in the first package. 2 years ago, they brought a plan to the HDC, the only fence mentioned in that plan and approved at that point was a little teeny section, the width of dumpsters, maybe 10 feet, 6 feet high, on the Keeney side of the parking lot. This blue line, that's the length of my property. This is the approved fence. This is the length of no fence in the first HDC meeting. The applicant went to the HDC in March for an amended application to extend the fence that was approved. And I was not invited to the meeting because abutters don't have to be invited to an amendment. So I found that little piece of governmental fun out from somebody saying, why didn't you go to the meeting? There's a fence on your house now. So I wrote to the HDC, I wrote to the P&Z. I really feel like that meeting should be, my neighbors and the neighborhood and the town in general should be able to comment and should have been able to see that a fence was being proposed. The minutes of that meeting, lose my voice, it's allergy season. The minutes in that meeting talk about how I'm gonna feel. They literally were like, he's good, they're gonna have a 6-foot fence. I don't know how it's gonna view that because the HDC is only talking about the appearance, but I wasn't even at the meeting. Then they dipped the fence down at my porch, nicest porch on Main Street, by the way, down to 4 feet, acknowledging that, oh, maybe the people there are not gonna like the 6-foot fence going across. So that meeting, I think, I went to the HDC and pointed out that should be reviewed and go back because people I've spoke to in the legal profession all say that was a material change in the plan. It was not an amendment. So anyway, they get that approved without anybody there, and now they're coming to you and saying, look, it got approved. The HDC loves the fence, but nobody really saw it. So I think that's like something that really is, it kind of points out that the question basically is, what is the purpose of that fence? That was my question. I think the commission should ask, why are you putting a fence there? It doesn't do anything. It's not in the buffer regulations, and all it does is put a fence and arborvitae against my house, excuse me. So, I also want to mention the property value discussion. I know that the application that came out yesterday, the supplemental, had what appears to be an AI-generated Google AI talking about commercial districts and property values. And I know the commission's responsibility, in my eyes, is not to evaluate property values and their effect. It's to evaluate the property adjacent to these homes under these conditions and the site. At the heart of this application, as the attorney mentioned, is the special permit standard, and the burden is not on the neighbors to prove every possible harm. The burden is on the applicant to demonstrate that this use at this location will not adversely affect surrounding properties and that the parking, circulation, buffering, public safety, and site design are adequate. And I think after months of review, repeated revisions, continued staff concerns, the staff had concerns in a memo dated yesterday. There still were unanswered questions. They're not complete. It's not a complete application. And I think it begs the question again, is this site simply too constrained for the intensity of use? And I respectfully believe the answer remains yes. Good intentions are not the standard for approval. Whether we want restaurants, how good the food is going to be, compatibility and demonstrated impacts are what really matter. And for those reasons, I respectfully ask the Commission to deny the special permit and change the use of the application. And I have one final thought. Sorry, I'm really sorry about the length, but Town Council meeting 2 weeks ago, somebody brought up the gravel parking lot, and because it had been in the package and it had mentioned in the applicant, he might have changed the application tonight, but it said spots are for restaurant only, and there was some concern, and somebody asked a question of the town manager, what's the story with the gravel parking lot? And town manager said, well, the town really, we see our function as getting to yes. We want to get to yes. And I just have a final thought on that, because I understand appreciate the goal, like Wethersfield should support good business, economic vitality, all the things that Ivana mentioned, but respectfully, getting to yes works when the proposal fits the site. The responsibility of the Commission is not just to try to get something to yes, it's to determine whether the proposal satisfied the Article 8 special permit regulations. And sometimes, after careful review, the answer may simply be, no, this site is too constrained for this intensity of use. You can wish to get to yes, and you can have it, but to start a project as like the goal is passing it, it negates all the other thoughtful preparation on it. And I understand the town wants to help businesses succeed, but after reviewing this whole record, my one thought is, where was the same level of problem solving directed toward the adjoining residents and businesses and museums who live with the day-to-day impacts of this project? The record reflects discussions, and the town manager mentioned we had a special meeting with the applicant. I think there was another one last week. They had discussions about parking solutions, future parking construction. They got the town to issue an LOI in advance of your commission hearing it. A letter to Commissioner Hammer said, here's the, it's basically stepping on the scale. We're going to do this if you pass it. It's not the way it's supposed to work. Yet, I think many of the concerns raised by adjoining residents, including buffering, driveway impacts, truck activity, fire trucks coming out, and the safety of the fire equipment in that street, lighting, noise, direct residential adjacency, enjoying our properties, they all remain largely unresolved. And respectfully, that's why the commission matters to me, because ultimately the commission is where all these other interests of everybody you hear, including myself and the applicant and the neighbor residents and businesses and the town as a whole, get weighed against the standards of Article 3. And after everything that has been presented, I respectfully don't believe that those standards have been met. And I appreciate your time and checking out all this stuff. I really do.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, please come up.
Christine Lasella, 37 Belmont Street. So I've lived in Old Wethersfield my whole adult life, and I've worked on Main Street about 40 years. Directly across the street, I'm not representing the business, the old town that I work for, but I watch Main Street. I've been watching it, since I started working there many years ago. Regarding the proposed restaurant, I was the person who asked the town manager a couple weeks ago about the parking lot, because it was interesting to me that a private business owner would pay for something in a public space. Excuse me, and he did say it was non-exclusive parking, that the owner needed to show more spaces, and so the town wants to, help businesses, which is a fair statement. I couldn't respond to him, but one of my thoughts was, well, we have to help the residents too. And this area of Main Street is the Village Business District, a combination of both residents and businesses, and it is my neighborhood. Although I don't live on Main Street, I live around the corner, but I walk it every day, drive to work every day, whatever. And I feel we're slowly chipping away. I know it was a bed and breakfast, but prior to the bed and breakfast that Frank and Sophie Bottaro put in 1987, it was a doctor's office, and his home, his court living resident, his family lived in the back of the house. And when Frank and Sophie had it, and then the next owner, Tom, bed and breakfast, it was not a restaurant, it was, what do you call it? Continental breakfast stuff, right? There was no big kitchen or what have you. I'll use Larissa Lake purchasing the Janook's two-family house that she was going to put a tea room in with alcohol-infused tea and sandwiches. That's no longer happening. The change of use of that was for a restaurant. So now, to my understanding, I met the gentleman who's going to be putting a small restaurant in there because the change of use was already made. So my concern with this next restaurant is I'm not opposed, I'm not Betty Buzzkill, I'm not, opposed to anyone being successful, but I think we don't, the bending over backwards to try and make this work, in the event that it doesn't work, what next? There's a lot of what ifs. The attorney stated there's a 10-year parking lease on Silas, Deane. What I pulled up was there's a 2-year parking lease for 10 spaces on the Silas Deane Highway for the employees. But what if that property gets sold? What if the Suburban that's bringing the employees breaks down? What if the owner of that building wants to break the lease? Now these employees, where are they parking? And now it's been approved. It's change of use, and there's a restaurant, and the employees are going to park everywhere. We do have a parking problem. I'll use the Charles as an example. I feel like when the Charles opened, that should have been addressed, because I was at a couple of small meetings with the owner of the Charles and a couple other property owners. And it was stated then that his employees would not park behind the firehouse using town parking, that the Charles employees would only be parking at the Keeney Center. I can tell you minimally 6 to 7 Charles employees park in the firehouse parking lot on a daily basis, and they start rolling in about 9:30. I usually see them when I'm walking my dog. I see them on Saturdays. So part of the town parking, and it was great on paper, right? The guy who owns it, we're not gonna park behind the firehouse. We're gonna leave that for the people. They park all the way down Center Street. I'm sure you all have heard from the people on Center Street. So the Center Street parking is still an issue. While I think adding more spaces is helpful at the Keeney, I think before we approve, well, you, not we, approve anything, getting it right, getting the parking situation. The parking at Wethersfield Construction, great idea on paper, but I don't think I would walk that far. Maybe some people would. It feels like there's just, all right, well, we'll figure something out. We'll, park wherever we have to. I don't want to see the Village Business District chipped away at. We have the most successful and the largest historic district in New England. And I just think we need to do it right, and we need to be cautious. And I don't think saying yes to everybody because they're going to, we're going to do all these items and it's going to work, because when it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. And then what do? We will, delivery services, you can say we're only going to allow them between 9 and 11. I've been working at a bar for 40 years. When the delivery truck doesn't come when they're supposed to, you take, what do? Well, all right, just come and try to get in and try to get out. It doesn't always work when you're working with a second or third party. And again, if they had their own parking lot, that would be perfect, because there'd be no worry about it. So yeah, and the HDC, I'm not certain that they're going to go for tinted windows. They're very picky on what kind and style of windows. So I know it was stated to provide privacy for the neighbor next door, the tinted windows. I'm not so sure, and they do only what Mr. Hammer said. They only can give their opinion on what is being done to the building, but they can't really share their thoughts on whether it's a good use or not. And I feel the intensity of the project. I am not friends with Mr. O'Connor. I don't really even know him. The intensity on his home and the neighbors behind on Robbinswood, and I don't know if there's people here from Robbinswood, I encourage you to get up and tell them, because it is a lot on people, and we all deserve a quality of life, all of us. And I think it's easier to hear someone who doesn't live down there, oh, it's a great idea, but come watch, come listen, and see the traffic that's already there with the people. It's intense, it's beautiful at times, so I'm nervous about that. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak?
No, go ahead.
Hello, I'm Chris Tracy. I live at 241 Broad Street, right behind Keeney Center. I have lived in Wethersfield my entire life. We've lived on Broad for over 40 years. Prior to when the Historical Society took over the Keeney Center, the property was a beautiful park. It was nice for residents. The expansion of the parking lot changed all that. There had been a huge grass area now, which is the parking lot. Kids played baseball and our neighbors practiced golf. I don't know if they should have, but they did. The basketball court was maintained, and there were men's leagues, and area kids played constantly. There was also a playground there, which the town said it needs replacing, and they took it down, but we never saw the replacement. When they removed all of the equipment, it never was. With this plan, no one will ever know there was a park there. You're taking away the entire area. It will have disappeared totally. Currently, when the weather allows, rarely a day goes by without some activity on the basketball court. I guess my question is for you. Is the business community really more important than the residents? That's it. Thank you.
I think you had your hand up. Yes. Sure.
Hi, good evening. Sandra Jazowski. I'm here to speak for my husband, John Jazowski, and we do live on Robbinswood, 15 Robbinswood Drive. First thing that we do want to point out is that we weren't aware of any proposal letters that were distributed to Old Wethersfield neighbors or abutters of the Chester Buckley House regarding the plans to convert the property from a bed and breakfast to a restaurant. We were not made aware of it. The Chester Buckley House is zoned as a commercial property and does need to be utilized as such, rather than leaving a vacant building. We appreciate that. However, Old Wethersfield is a quaint village. It's small and it's compact. The existing parking at the Keeney Center and at First Church should dictate the capacity of the new business in that property without further encroachment onto our collective village green areas. The lot at First Church is open for use by all outside of church hours, and there hasn't been any mention of that church parking lot. It sits there unused. The idea of expanding parking for the Chester Buckley House beyond the present Keeney Center parking lot encroaches on the basketball court. This court is used by our town's youth as an integral part of our community. And a concern for the abutters on the proposed expansion of parking is the light pollution. The attraction of our village is its quaintness, its historic charm. Comparable towns that incorporated business into their quaint centers are Chester and Essex. Neither of these towns have expanded parking lots. Their businesses thrive with existing street parking and regard for homeowners. To reiterate, this village is an historic district, and once it is altered, it cannot be reversed. Our quaint village, once impacted by expanding businesses, will no longer be the quaint village that we know as Old Wethersfield. So my husband and I, John Jazowski, hope that you'll consider these points. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, I see a hand. Here.
Good evening, members and alternates of the Wethersfield Planning and Zoning Commission. My name is Jim Tracy. I live at 241 Broad Street, east of the Keeney Center. I'm here tonight to oppose the application for a change of use at 184 Main Street from a bed and breakfast to a restaurant. I do not believe this application is in keeping with Article 8 of the zoning regulations. The problems are endless and include constant traffic, not only from patrons, but also due to service deliveries, headlights, exhaust fumes, a dumpster with all of its glory, including rodents. When this project was first discussed at your meeting in January, there were many comments regarding its level of intensity. I don't see how reducing the number of seats from 138 to 99 does anything with regards to the issues I mentioned earlier. You still have a dumpster, you still have rodents, you still have deliveries, you still have headlights, restaurant odors and exhaust fumes, and most of all, you have a loss of residential privacy and a reduction in property values. I am not opposed to another restaurant in town. However, I think there are other locations in town that would be a better fit. There are empty buildings that don't require a change of use application and can provide on-site parking. I'm also opposed to the expansion of the parking lot behind the Keeney Center. In that regard, I am actually confused as to who the applicant is for the parking lot expansion. Is it the town or is it 3E Property Management? Nothing in the posted agenda item would indicate you are discussing an expansion to the Keeney parking lot tonight. The only public notice of this proposal is the town manager's letter, which is of course buried in the attachment of more than 100 pages. It would appear that if you approve the request for the restaurant, you are also approving the parking lot expansion. It seems less than transparent to even be considering the parking lot expansion without proper notice. When the town decided to lease the Keeney Center to the Historical Society, there were opposing views regarding the size of the parking lot. The town had a proposal, the Historical Society had a proposal, and the neighbors had a proposal. There were many months of discussions and negotiations, including a lawsuit brought by the neighbors. In the end, it was decided and approved by this commission that there would be 100 parking spaces. There are many reasons why the size of the parking lot was an issue for the neighbors when it was originally being built. Those reasons are the same today. A loss of green space, a loss of the basketball court, increased traffic in our backyard, headlights and parking lot lights, noise and air pollution, a loss of residential privacy, and a reduction in property values. Some of you might remember a line from an old Joni Mitchell song. They paved paradise and put up a parking lot. Well, You might not consider this to be paradise, but I urge you to deny this application. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Hello, my name is Madeline Payne. I live on 223 Broad Street, and I want to talk about, again, the parking lot expansion. And I know it's not the biggest part of this proposal, but it's the biggest part affecting the neighbors that are around on Broad Street and Robbinswood. And I want to specifically, as a teen who's grown up here my whole life and had the Keeney parking lot in my backyard and the basketball court specifically, talk about the importance to the people who live in Wethersfield and to the teens and the young people. That is one of the very few third spaces that exist in Wethersfield that are easy to access for teens, that also aren't overrun like a bunch of rules and constrictions to what we can do there. And other than like sitting outside and going to gazebos and just grass and like areas like that, it's a space where teens can actually go hang out, they can play basketball together. I've also seen young families bring their kids to learn how to ride bikes there. That's where I learned how to ride my bike without the danger of cars in the streets or me riding out into the street from the driveway. It's a very important space for the residents in the neighborhood to just exist and not have the rules of like, it's somewhere where I grew up. It's an important part for the residents. And every day, like it's been mentioned, that basketball court is used. There are so many people I've seen use it, and it's used, again, by families, by teens. I've seen people learning how to dance there, just hanging around, people on their own, people in big groups. It's an important space to have their spaces where you don't have to pay money to be there, and you don't have to worry about exactly how to use the space. And losing that loses this part of life and daily life, like casual parts, and it makes, again, the town feel more commercial and less like the residents can actually live there. It kind of makes it feel like we are not as important as the businesses, as the parking and the access to the businesses. I'm not opposed to businesses and restaurants. I work on Main Street, and the restaurants are great to go to, but losing that residential and that life aspect, and it's been a lot of core memories for me, learning to ride my bike, playing with friends, learning how to play basketball, all of these different things. So losing it would be bad. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Hi, I'm Brett Adams, 235 Broad Street. So the basketball court is essentially right in my backyard. It's actually the reason why I bought the house, believe it or not. Playing basketball my whole life and raising my two daughters in Old Wethersfield for the last 28 years. Of course, they're grown up now, but it sounds like a really nice restaurant, and I certainly love all the restaurants in Old Wethersfield and being able to walk to them. But you know, parking is really the issue, and the ability to go out my back gate and shoot baskets. And I'm still known to go play one-on-one with a few of these young kids out there and take them to the hoop, if you know what I mean. But in all seriousness, you know, it's just to me, it wouldn't be Old Wethersfield without the court there. I know they had some studies done on parking, and I respect that. In my opinion, living there and being there on Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, that parking lot gets pretty full. You know, now there's trucks that park there for some reason. There's school bus that parks there for some reason during the day. It's very limited. And, you know, it would be a shame not to have, you know, again, that court outside, you know, to enjoy. And I agree with the young, you know, like Payne, Ms. Payne, nice job to her, our neighbor. And finally, you know, I understand they put a lot of work into the landscaping and to have this little walkway with around a circle area, that would be literally right outside my fence. And it looks nice on a map, but I can only imagine what my 2 crazy dogs are going to do when there's more people walking around back there, keeping everybody up sometimes at night. But at the end of the day, I unfortunately am against the proposal. I do respect it. I love the restaurants, but it wouldn't work for myself and my family. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Seth Payne, 223 Broad Street. I did submit a letter that should be in your packet, so I'm not going to repeat anything that's in that letter. But briefly, just wanted to mention that I can view the parking lot from my kitchen windows, right? So if I'm washing dishes, whatever, I'm looking at that parking lot. I can see when it's full, when it's not full. It's been full quite a bit lately, mostly during the summer months, right? Because it gets light later at night, and people are there. They're going around looking at the shops and things on Main Street. We got the bikes on Main Street. We've got the scarecrows on Main Street. And during those times, that lot is full. I am opposed to the expansion. I don't think it's well thought out. We're talking about a gravel lot. That's going to be noisy. It brings the car's headlights closer to my backyard as they're pulling in, parking, leaving, etc. And, I just don't think it's appropriate to lose a community resource of the basketball court to put in something like a gravel parking lot, right? That probably isn't even going to be finished. It's going to need to be maintained. Plowing is going to push the rocks up into piles in the winter, and it's going to create work for the town workers, or I don't know if, the restaurant's going to maintain that as part of the lease agreement, but I didn't see anything mentioned about that either. So just wanted to express that I am opposed to this as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Not seeing second call for anyone else who'd like to speak who hasn't. Okay, one more time. Seeing no takers, Attorney Silver, your opportunity for you to.
I know this application's been going on for quite some time. A couple of quick points. One is there is no application pending for the expansion of the Keeney Center parking lot. That is not something that is within Mr. Croy's purview to apply for. That is something that the town intends on doing. So I just want to make sure that the general public and obviously the commissioners know that that's not what we're asking for. What we're asking for is for this proposed use to be approved with a condition, which is well within your purview to impose, that the use would only be able to operate if this additional parking is in fact approved. And we did spend some time to figure out which goes first. Do we try to get, would the town try to get this parking approved first? And it just didn't make sense, because obviously there's a significant investment in getting a restaurant up and running, and we need to know whether or not it's something that the town will approve before that goes forward. Another important point is this use right now, it is a commercial use. It was previously a bed and breakfast. It could have had a commercial kitchen. I was never there, so I don't know what type of kitchen it had, but it certainly could have been a commercial kitchen. So while we are asking for a change in use, we're not asking a change from a residential use to a restaurant commercial use. It's still a commercial use. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Grease traps? No? Fire marshals.
There was a comment about some of the concerns the fire marshal had in one of his comments. I believe the engineer or the architect has already submitted the response to appropriately address those concerns. And again, we understand this commission has the ability to impose conditions that obviously we need to comply with any fire code requirements and so on and so forth. And again, we heard the concerns from the neighbors, and we understand the concerns, we appreciate the concerns, and I know the commission does as well. But the commission is here to act in what's in the best interest of the town. And that's what we're asking for you to do, is to think about what is best for the town of Wethersfield, not just necessarily a few of the adjacent neighbors, but the town in the entirety. Thank you.
I have a question for you, just trying to make sure I understand. So if you're saying, you're asking us to consider approval of your application, but on the condition that those 27 additional parking spaces become generally available to the public in the Keeney lot, and you're basically saying unless and until that happens, you would not be able to implement your approval or open the restaurant? Am I hearing that
That's
correctly?
part of our request for the waiver.
So if it took 4 years, then you're sitting 4 years, or if it never happens, then you're unable to operate. I'm just trying to understand what you're
It's our hope and
suggesting.
expectation it wouldn't take that long.
Yeah, well, what if it never happens? Then where does that leave
That's
you?
an obvious concern.
Because you're relying, on your request for waiver of parking, you are relying in part on 27 extra spaces. Is that's the way I read your application?
We also have the One Wells Road, and Keeney Memorial has 100 parking spaces. Street has 243 spaces. So we are proposing some parking. We have some parking in place for the restaurant.
We need 35 parking spaces for our patrons. I think it's a multifaceted approach. We have 20 available a half mile down the road. There's obviously plenty of there is on-street parking as well. There's 100 spots in the Keeney Center, but it is our expectation that the approval would take place for the expansion and the additional 27 spaces as well.
Tom?
Yes, sir. I have, since parking seems to be a significant issue here, one of the things that struck me about your proposal is that you have no mention or for accommodation of other kinds of transportation devices to propose the patrons use to get to and get from the restaurant as proposed, such as use of bicycles, mopeds, particularly electric mopeds or electric-assisted bicycles, those kinds of things that are much less of an environmental hazard upon the world than the internal combustion engine. Do you have any thoughts or any plans relative to making provision for the placement or parking of bicycles, those kinds of transportation devices?
As far as installing a bike rack for people to place their bicycles, as long as the town approved it and the HDC approved the look and the material of the metal that was used to create the parking for it, it's certainly a great idea that would be acceptable. We anticipate that a lot of the patrons are going to come by foot. I mean, as many of the neighbors have mentioned, I mean, there's a lot of foot traffic. It's the business village district. People are going to be walking there. If they would like to ride bicycles or mopeds, that would be great as well.
Well, what I was thinking of is more of of promoting that kind of transportation as opposed to, gasoline-powered or diesel-powered vehicles.
We can certainly promote that. We can promote on website, on menus, on confirmations. We have no issue with promoting that. Like Brian said, it's a lot of the residents in Old Wethersfield frequent those restaurants. They use the foot traffic. They walk to the restaurants. We have no problem asking or telling patrons that, hey, it's an option of a bike ride. We have a bike rack if that's.
Also, in reading through the materials that was provided for us in advance of the application or advance of this hearing, I noticed there were questions raised about the other parking areas that your restaurant would use aside from what's been proposed for the Keeney Center. There's some question as to the long-term viability of those parking arrangements or agreements, such as one item that I noticed in response to the proposal and in one of the memorandum from town official was concern about the parking spaces for employees in that particular lot, and that that lot seems to be overloaded in terms of needs. I would tend to think that to overcome that, you could reduce the amount that you're requiring from that particular lot to reduce the your staff parking needs by providing a system of shared automobile usage by the employees, whereby one employee that has a vehicle could pick up 2 or 3 other employees, so you could reduce your need with such a shared traffic arrangement. You could reduce that by, perhaps 50%.
That's certainly something that's anticipated, but the town requirements is that he have 8 parking spaces for his employees. So that's what we need to do, is to provide proof that we can accommodate 8 parking spaces. That lot at 383 Silas Deane Highway, it's currently a 10-year lease with section 13.1 of that lease gives another 10-year renewal lease. So it's actually a 20-year lease. The building itself uses 12 out of the 27 parking spaces. So there's more than sufficient parking for the 8 that we're required. And we don't anticipate even needing necessarily 8 because of the carpool situation with many of the employees can share transportation. But if they didn't, we can still comply with the town regulations.
Okay. There's also a question about those parking leases, that there are provisions in there where what is essentially what you claim to be a 10 or 20-year lease, that such leases could be terminated on 30 days' notice.
So that was in a prior version. The most recent lease that's in your packet now, that provision has been removed and the term has been extended. So the most recent lease that you'll see in your package, it's a 10-year lease with a fixed 10-year option renewal with no right to cancel.
Yeah, so this, if I may, so this is probably a good time. So we heard a couple of comments, and I was going to explain to the commission, and there's a lot of paperwork in front of you. So some of the comments do reflect that the information that we received with the application has been changed. We received another revised set of plans which have undergone one set of comments, and most recently, as of yesterday, Commissioner Deane, we received new comments and responses to the comments from the town engineer. So that's why at the beginning I would suggest that I defer to the commission, but if there's an interest in continuing it, there would be a benefit to looking at the most recent plans. There were comments from the fire marshals. There was a comment about the second egress. We now have confirmation from the applicant's architect that there is a second egress, which changes if the fire marshal agrees with the architect's comments, which is one of the reasons we want to continue this if possible. We want to make sure that 50-person second story limit might be gone. So, and the lease agreement. We also have revised lease agreements, so some of the comments may be different.
I was thinking of in terms of potential continuation, because getting all this data, these various arguments or proposals, modifications, essentially, less than 24 hours before the commission meets in a hearing, that the notice was published, in the paper, over a week ago, now makes it incumbent upon the commission to make a determination based upon the latest acceptable modification or evidence that's provided. And I'm not so much concerned about the more technical issues, such as the matters relating to life safety or handicapped accessibility, or those aspects, because that's going to be a requirement, whatever this commission, however this commission rules, if their project goes ahead. But as it relates to some of the more controversial issues, I think it might behoove us to have a determination based upon full notice and review of the latest evidence and materials.
And just to also make a connection, because it was brought up. So this commission, the reason that we do have a letter of intent signed by the town manager, because the commission can recognize off-site shared parking within certain conditions, provided there's a written agreement. But a letter of intent, there's no reason to sign an agreement for something that isn't sure yet. So that's why we have a letter of intent from the town manager. And the town manager, everyone is fully aware that prior to that work happening, there will be additional reviews and approvals by other towns, which is why it is just a letter of intent. It is not a guarantee, and I have been making a point. We have received comments that this application before the commission right now does not independently result in that parking lot being expanded. So I just want to make that clear to everyone, including the applicant as well. So this application should, and I would encourage everyone, it should stand on its own for the application, independent of that parking lot expansion occurring. That is why we have the letter of intent, so that the applicant could recognize it as a possible future condition. I forgot what I was going to say, but that's right. It was also mentioned about the maintenance of any expanded parking lot when and if it does occur. And so that is one of those technical questions that we also are talking about internally. So for example, there's a sidewalk that connects to a public facility. Who maintains that? Who plows that? So some of those technical questions that are part of this application, we are still talking about those. So I just wanted to make that clear, that there are still some unanswered finer points about the application.
Yeah, and I think our planner, makes a good point, and Tom, I agree with what you said. I think there's been a lot of new information that we haven't even had an opportunity to digest ourselves as well as staff, and I think we need the benefit of that. So I think we ought to continue it, but I think we ought to also, if there's any specific questions that we have of the applicant that we want, one would be, there was a comment by Mr. O'Connor in terms of flipping landscaping and fence, and I'm not sure if I quite followed all of what he was suggesting, but I guess that is something that you certainly, or anything else that you've heard tonight, you certainly could, attempt to further address if you wish. And I would also just direct you that under that section of the parking regulations that allows certain other arrangements to be made, there's a series of different sections in there, as I'm sure you know. Some of them have distance limitations in terms of it not being more than 250 feet away, must be in the same zone. Others don't necessarily, but they definitely all require the applicant, to demonstrate with information and analysis that whatever waiver they're asking for would not lead to a unsafe condition or an impact. So I think you have an opportunity if there's anything else you want to do. And Tom?
Yes. Two things. One being the concerns that were specifically raised by, I think, with Mr. O'Connor. Really, what I understand is the property owner of the property immediately to the south of the proposed location. It would seem like many of the concerns that he had arise from the A2 survey upon which the applicant's latest revisions of their site plan relate to, and that would seem to be something that the commission would need to rely upon the A2 survey rather than Mr. Connor's comments or concerns. On the other hand, Mr. Connor would seem to have, property interests that, that transcend the jurisdiction of this commission relating to any harm this proposal to his property interests, in which he could take, private action to seek redress. Another concern that I had, and I don't know the answer to this, I guess I'd pose the question to you, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Elder, and also to our sort of resident zoning expert, who's the former chairman of this commission, and ask them about the appropriateness of hearing this application, which has been made less than 6 months after essentially the same application was turned down by this commission unanimously, which seems to be an indication of an overwhelming decision of prejudice against this application, and I welcome any clarification, because I'm not sure that my assumption is correct, but my understanding is that there is a 1 year requirement between applications regarding essentially the same application on the same property by the same applicant.
I think there may be something in the statutes that says the commission is not required to hear the same thing again, with whether it's 6 months or 12 months. But I think unless there's been a material change in the application. So I think we've given the applicant, the courtesy of hearing the application, but at the end of the day, you're not supposed to change your decision unless there's been a substantial enough change to warrant a different result. So ultimately, that's going to be our determination at the end of this proceeding. But you bring up a good point that other decision is out there, and we should be taking that into account as we proceed as well. And Rich, please.
Yeah, I think the strict time limit is for zoning boards of appeals, but for us, it's just kind of a basic analysis of, is this the same application? And you have to look at all the components of it. Are there changes in the content of the application, not just the manner of presentation, that could justify a different result? And speaking for myself, I think the change in the occupancy, adding the potential of parking at Keeney as an option, those sorts of things at least get you over the threshold of, is this identical to the last one? But I mean, that's a decision that we would have to make as a commission.
And just to clarify, even if it gets you over the threshold of whether it's identical, we still have to apply our standards and determine, based on the new one, whether we think it meets all the Section 8 and other requirements still. Yeah. Yep. Dave?
For myself, just a general observation. I think you guys did a great job putting the plan together, how to fit the lot and all the parking and everything else, but I know we're going to go forward with this with another meeting on this whole thing, but it seems like you got to work way too hard to make this thing work. And that's, it should fit better than this. We got all the odd parking, the town's got to do something. For me, I just look at it, it seems way too hard for this property to make it work. And you made it work, I'm with you, but it just seems like a big effort to get all the pieces in place to make this work in my mind. But let's see how we go to the next step, make it feel a little bit better.
So, would somebody like to, I'm not sure. Yes, Rich.
I think one thing that may be useful to know, and it was a member of the public who mentioned it, and I had no idea that there was litigation over the parking lot and the size. Somebody should figure out whether that has any effect on the ability of the town to expand it.
Yes. That's an excellent point. In other words, if there was some kind of settlement that put limitations on the future, for example.
Yeah.
Yep.
What do we have to do if,
Right.
you know, because it,
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to continue this meeting.
To our next meeting, which I think is it June 2nd? Is that
June
the
2nd, yes.
first Tuesday? Okay.
I think for all that's been mentioned, we've had information coming late, and it's a very complicated, review we have to make here. The staff still needs time, so I think it's necessary that we continue this.
And is there a second? Dave, a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. And I would just urge you, if you're going to be providing us with any additional information, to please try to do so as far in advance of the June 2nd meeting as possible.
And just so the commissioners understand, all the additional supplemental information was merely in response to the staff comments. So we received staff comments as recently as I think it was May 18th, which was just yesterday.
Yeah.
So we promptly, I think it was the same day our engineer responded.
Right, but at some point it times out just because there's not enough time for everybody to go through the back and forth. So anything new, please, as promptly as you can would be appreciated.
Actually, I'll also take that opportunity for the members of the public too. I looked at my, I'm still receiving comments right now. So I would just advise any member of the public that if you want your comments as part of the record and you don't intend to come and read them, please send them as, earlier than the night of the meeting.
That would be appreciated. Otherwise, we may not have them physically in front of us or have a chance to read them. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
We're going to take a very brief break before we go to the next application. All right. let's see how it goes. Okay. Whoops. Okay, continuing to our next application, 2232-26, 100 Great Plain Lane special permit to allow multiple similar accessory uses to an existing seasonal agricultural use, including but not limited to fairgrounds and special events such as weddings and photo shoots, in accordance with section 4.1.b in the agricultural zone submitted by 7 Acres Farm. And if the applicant is here, if you would please come up. And if you could just give us an overview of what you're proposing, that would be appreciated.
Good evening, and thank you for coming tonight. My name is Morgan Dodge, and my wife Diana and I are owners of a small family-run flower farm here in town. We specialize in growing cut flowers with a focus on dahlias and seasonal blooms. We operate as a seasonal U-Pick experience where customers can come and enjoy the farm. The Old Wethersfield U-Pick site, which is located on the DeSenza family farm, is especially meaningful to us because we grew up in town. Being able to come back, put down roots, and contribute something positive to the community that raised us is incredibly important to us. Our goal is not to just farm, but to help the town grow its agritourism footprint. We believe there is a real opportunity to bring something new and complementary to the community, something that celebrates agriculture and also creates a welcoming space for residents and visitors alike. As we've seen over the past season, our farm draws visitors not just from the town, but from surrounding towns and even neighboring states. Those visitors do not just come to us, they often stop at the local restaurants, shops, and other small businesses. In that way, we see our farm as one small piece of a larger ecosystem that helps support the town's local economy. Currently, we operate seasonally and offer U-Pick flower experiences which allow people to connect with agriculture in a hands-on, meaningful way. What we are requesting uses to our existing seasonal agriculture operation. This includes, but is not limited to, small vendor fairs, private events such as weddings, and photography sessions in accordance with section 4.1.b in the agricultural zone. We want to be very clear that any events we host will remain aligned with the scale and character of our farm. Our intention is not to become a large event venue, but rather to offer thoughtfully planned occasional events that complement our agricultural use. We also understand that with increased visitors come valid concerns, particularly around traffic and safety. This is a very serious topic for us. Over the past season, we have already been proactive in working with the town to advocate for road safety improvements, including speed limit, signage, and exploring options like speed control measures. Additionally, we have made significant improvements to our on-site traffic flow this year. Our layout has been carefully designed to guide vehicles safely and efficiently through the property, minimizing congestion and prioritizing both customer safety and neighborhood safety. At the heart of everything we do is commitment to creating safe, enjoyable, and respectful environment for our customers and our neighbors and the town as a whole. We truly believe we're building what we are building and are committed to doing in a way that reflects the values of this community. Thank you for your time. I might add also, just with everything that just happened in the prior one, we don't allow any off-street parking. All of our parking is on our site. We do feel like we have more than adequate parking considering the size of our events and the amount of traffic we get for our cut flowers. There might be also some confusion from complaints, I might say, coming in. We were planning on co-hosting an event with the Chamber of Commerce, which was tagged as Brewfest, which we have switched just due to general concerns about alcohol. And we are just switching the nature of the event because of some neighborhood complaints and trying to do the best we possibly can for our neighbors.
Excuse me, how are you switching that
So
event?
the event was supposed to be a beer and wine tasting option. So you would have been, carded as a 21 plus person. You would have been given a wristband, no different than any other beer and wine tasting hosted by many other establishments or towns. And we are just eliminating the beer and wine part. So we hope to get approval for vendor fair and host a regular vendor fair.
Can you be a little bit more specific in terms of vendor fairs? How many vendors, what types of vendors, how frequently would they be there?
So on our schedule, we have 4 planned. There would be 3 that we would like to host this year, and one being one additional one with co-hosting with the Chamber of Commerce.
So a total of 4 for the season?
For the season.
And other than those, it's just the regular flower?
Flower picking. Yep.
And are you still proposing any type of vendor tents during just the regular flower picking, or is that only during those 4?
It's just during special events such as those 4.
And I know in your application you say accommodating parking, I think for up to 400 to 500 cars. Over what period of time do you expect that number of cars to occur? How many, for example, would be the highest at a single point in time that you would expect?
I think that might depend on the nature of the event. If it was a vendor fair, I would expect there to be an influx at a certain time of the day. We are family friendly, we're pet friendly, so families with young kids might come before nap time, noon to 1, then there might be a lapse. So at our peak, I would say all the parking would be full.
The 400 to 500 spaces?
Yes.
And what you're proposing today, how does it differ from what you did last year? It sounds like
in no way, shape, or form.
Are the 4 events new, something that you didn't do before?
We did 2 events last year.
Similar type events?
Yeah, exactly the same.
And how many, what's the most cars you think you ever had last year at a time?
We try to do our best at estimating. I looked up online the statistic for the average car holds 2.3 people coming to a vendor fair. We estimated between 4,000 to 5,000 people visiting our vendor fair in an 8-hour period.
4,000 to 5,000?
Yeah.
And I think when you were here for the pre-application, I think you explained that you were actually expanding the size of the parking area from what it had been. Is that
substantially? Correct? Yeah. I can pass this around. So
I guess where I'm
just an updated map. Our parking now is about. So I broke it down into square footages, which is on the back of that. We roughly have about a 4-acre parking lot. Grass parking lot.
Existing before you expand?
In our new expansion.
And what did you have before that?
It was the landowners provided us with what I refer to as the paddock, and it's an old animal corral. There was that and then an adjacent grass lot, and I would estimate we could fit about 110, 120 cars at full capacity.
Did you ever go over 110 last year?
So like I said, all at once it was full.
Right.
And then people would leave.
Right. So I guess just looking at the numbers that you've given us, I mean, it sounds like you're 4 times larger capacity if you're going up to 400 to 500 from 110.
Yeah. So we have the new 4-acre lot, and we still have the remaining lots that we used last year.
Okay. And Dave, my understanding is that you maybe got some information today that you need to provide to fire and police in order to get their input on emergency access type issues. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. So and I know we discussed some of this with the pre-application, but and I have spoken with the applicant about that before, and it is discussed, is that just to repeat what's already been said, so, on a normal day, there may not be a lot of traffic, there may not be a lot of volume, but in some cases there will be. And so the idea was that in those, for the larger events, what is the plan, the management plan to make sure that people are parked in a proper place, which is why I think that there's a plan being circulated so that emergency vehicles, ambulances, fire trucks, police can still get down all of the lanes. That was one of the things so the applicant put together sort of a traffic circulation plan. I need to share that with the emergency personnel in town just to make sure that they're comfortable with that. And then just as a reminder, I apologize if you already said this tonight, but I don't think you did, but this is a separate application, so it's good to remind folks that you do have portalettes on site, right? And I believe you do have hand washing stations, right? And there are no lights proposed as part of this, is that correct?
No, we close at dusk or, prior to dusk, so everyone has proper lightage to find their way to their cars and leave.
And I'm just restating what I already know to be true from that, but you intend to have parking lot attendants for certain events, is that right?
At all times, yeah.
At all times.
With the influx of the special events, we would bring in more.
Okay. And this would be seasonal?
Seasonal. So right now, our season for 2026 is scheduled mid-July to second week in October.
And you realize as a special permit that if the commission chooses to approve it, they do sometimes limit duration where you would have to come back and sort of verify and that it's operational and there might be changes or it may not be approved again, but you're aware of that?
For example, I might say you'll grant me a 1-year permission, you're saying, is that correct?
That's sometimes done 1 year or a 2-year or something.
Sure.
So that we can see if it works, if there's impacts, if there's problems. And as Mr. Elder said, if there were problems, then we have the ability not to renew it.
I would be personally fine with that just because it's a new business at a dead-end road that the neighbors need to be aware that things might be changing. And if something didn't go correctly, then I would want the same respect given that a possible change might be made.
It also actually, I'm just going to bring this up, it also gives you an opportunity to change it if you have to come back. So there might be something that you didn't envision that you want to do more of or less of or change. So I'll just add that as a...
And I just have one, I go through that Elm Route 3 intersection frequently, but I never make any turns. I'm usually just going straight, one way or another on Route 3. But I think basically, I know you can cross over from one side of Elm to the other, but in terms of turns, I know coming off the Putnam Bridge, you certainly can't go left.
No.
What about coming out of Elm from where his location would be? You can only go straight, or can you turn at all?
You can turn.
Right?
Yeah,
You can turn right or straight. You cannot
Right or
turn off to
straight.
the Putnam
Turn right to get on 3 or go straight.
Right, but people who are coming from Glastonbury, for example, would have to go around somehow and then come back in the other
You have to go
direction.
through Old Wethersfield and come straight
Right.
through or go down and turn.
Right, yeah.
I've also spoken with the town about that. They had mentioned there was some grant money for directional farm signs, and I'll use Glastonbury as an example. If you go over to their farm district, they have little placards stating such and such farm this way. Hopefully that might alleviate some of the confusion on the different ways to get to the dead-end road.
I mean, it's an awkward intersection, and I think I would very much like to see what the police, and fire have to say, to the extent they have any concerns on any aspects of it. And I think last time, I think you told us there's no speed limits or signage on the gravel road,
So
correct?
since our last conversation, there has been a Great Plain Lane sign installed, which is tremendously helpful. But there are, I check in with physical services every now and then just to see updates. There's no posted speed limit sign. And I've suggested with a meeting with Fred, the town manager, can we possibly get rubber temporary speed bumps installed on the paved portion of Elm? My portion of Great Plain Lane is not paved, but that would maybe help those residents with kids in that area to force the cars to slow down.
Yeah. If you can clarify an issue for me, it seems like the time of the year in which you would have these events, if assuming it goes on, regularly year after year, that you're looking for a time frame of actual holding these events, between say the 1st of April and the end of October, in terms of maximum times of the year in which this would be done. On an average year, according to what you can estimate based upon your best information at this point in time, about how many of these events per year would you anticipate? Or how many of these events per month of use would you anticipate this to occur?
I feel like we, as a family, feel pretty comfortable with the 3 to 4 number just throughout the season.
So 3 or 4 in any one year?
Yeah, less is more sometimes, and over that span of time, it provides just enough to maybe make someone who missed the first one be able to get the second one, but it's not a monthly, if we're talking April to October, it's not a monthly thing.
Okay, so you're not going to have this every week?
No.
Or even every month? Then.
No.
Except you will have the normal pick your own flowers every weekend during that period, right?
Yeah, but that's your business right now.
That's my allowed agricultural use in that space.
And just to clarify, in your application, I think you say you're proposing to operate from mid-July through mid-October.
So that's at this point, we don't do spring, any spring growing. We've had a lot of interest, asked, but we don't grow anything in the springtime. We're a late summer, fall.
So would that equate to July 15th to October 15th or something? Or
Yeah, so our slated opening date is July 19th of 2026, and we plan on closing October 10th.
Okay, yes.
You passed out a diagram showing how the parking is going to be handled, which is not the scale.
Correct.
And by looking at that, there's no way you're going to fit 400 cars on that.
It's not the scale.
So, I mean, one concern I have is that's a lot of cars. 400 or 500 cars is a lot of cars. And it almost seems to me that you should do a very careful layout of that property. And maybe even hire someone to kind of section off exactly how the parking is going to go. Because that doesn't convince me that you're going to have a safe operation with 400 cars. It doesn't, I'll be honest.
No, that's fine.
And, I'd like to see from you something a little bit more engineered.
Okay.
Measured out carefully. And you mentioned 4 acres. That's a good bit, no question. But exactly how you section that off and how it flows and how you get emergency vehicles in and out of that space and how you control it is, to me, the fundamental issue in my mind for what you're trying to do beyond what you've already done.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you got to put a little bit more effort in convincing at least me that it's going to be safe to put 400 or 500 cars in that space.
Sure.
That be done essentially as a condition for an application approval and require that condition to be fulfilled and approved and delegate the responsibility of approving a detailed measured parking plan with the town planner?
From my perspective, Tom, I think that is essential enough to the decision on whether or not to grant the special permit that I'd like to see it.
I wouldn't want to
before we act.
relegate that because it's safety.
Does the fire marshal do that
I think
anyways,
safety
though?
is the
Isn't that
big
what-
issue.
Well, they asked on this one specifically, so that's one of the reasons. So they specifically asked to review the traffic operations and management plan for the site from the emergency operations perspective. So that's...
What he presented is insufficient for anybody to review. I mean, that's my point.
Well, I think that'll be one of the comments is they're going to ask for more information. Yeah, that's likely.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to ask for more information similar to what we talked about. So, for some sort of a scale, so for events of a certain size, how many traffic, are you going to have any events where you might need to have an off-duty security? They're going to ask a lot of questions that I don't know what they're going to ask, but they're going to ask a lot of questions. So in this day and age, it's sad but true that they want to make sure that the site is protected from all kinds of threats and dangers too.
Yeah, and, you know, I go down that road quite a bit because I ride my bike in the meadows there. And yeah, it is a straight, narrow road, and some people really get going on that road. There's no question that speed can be an issue. So his comment about putting some sort of temporary or permanent speed bumps for the benefit of the neighbors, I think is important. I think it'd be good to know that that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And there's some control on the speed on that road.
I guess, just to clarify, the 400 to 500 spaces certainly would be filled up if you're having one of those 3 or 4 times a year
Special
events, but what about on a typical August regular weekend? Do you think you would fill it up?
With no other attraction, other than the flowers, which, you know, we have lawn space, people can come and have a picnic and just stay as long as they like. It's more of an ebb and flow. So, you know, last year we never anticipated the amount of volume of traffic. We really had no idea, right? So, I would say, you know, on a good, nice weekend, 200 cars, you know, but that's like a
200 at one time, potentially.
Not potentially. I mean, we've over tripled in size. So,
Right.
I mean,
Yep.
I don't have it's just an estimation.
Okay, I agree. I think the internal circulation and access is important, but I have to say I have some concerns just in terms of the intersection of Elm Street and Route 3, because it's such an awkward setup, as well as for the paved part of Elm, and not having them experience 200 cars going by in an hour past their houses. So I'm not sure how we get our hands around that, but ultimately we have to decide on the intensity, and I think one control is you could theoretically limit it to a 1-year duration and really have better control on it and be having a conversation a year from now.
And have the police involved and see all the problems, hopefully no problems.
Right.
And I might just add, I'm not the only business on the road. There are 2 other farms, the turf farm. So, I'm not the only one bringing traffic, so I'm doing my best to mitigate any of those well-known issues, but that traffic light is a known problem. And, I might just ask for, your best to grant me the permit for a year, and hope that we can mitigate any issues that pop up.
Another question, so I know you're not requesting, it would be a special permit for the sale of alcohol, but would you be allowing people, to bring their own alcohol? I'm hoping the answer is no to that, in terms of people who are coming to pick flowers, or people who are, who are there for anything.
Well, I believe I stated the last time I was here, we are BYOB farm. So according to state laws, I don't need a permit for that. And then it kicked it back to saying if the municipality has regulations on it, which it doesn't seem like Wethersfield has regulations on BYOB.
And I appreciate that part of it, and I'm looking at it more from, just in terms of the special permit itself, whether ultimately we're comfortable if people are bringing their own and drinking. I guess to me, it just goes back to the road and the access.
Explain what a BYOB farm is.
That's a good question.
You're allowed to pack a picnic and bring the beverage of choice, whether it be alcohol or not.
And that's a farm. That's not a farm. That's just a picnic place. I mean, can you get on a tractor and drink by yourself? I mean, I don't know. Would a BYOB
We have flower
farm?
fields that people come to enjoy.
Yeah.
We don't typically charge an entrance fee because we cater to all people looking for a safe and comfortable place to enjoy their outdoor activities. We have lawn games for kids. We have picnic tables, Adirondack chairs. So if someone wanted to come and enjoy our flower fields, we would hope that they would make a purchase, but they're allowed to come and enjoy our space.
Other questions, commission members, before we go to the public?
Okay. Oh, one question. How about music? You're gonna be playing? I guess you could be playing loud music on a Saturday.
I believe that
It could
was
be new for the neighbors, that's why I just
part of the
asked.
special event permit was like music, events involving sound.
But again, Joe, like you said, if you do it for a year, then you can all see how many complaints we have and what the problems are.
Who are the neighbors?
Yeah,
I don't know, it's all-
I'm like,
every neighbor on the street sent a note in.
The closest neighbors are actually Middletown Ave, but they're behind me.
I think that,
All these guys are neighbors.
No, I'm just,
Hubbard.
to be clear, you already have this permit, and what you're doing right now is.
I don't think he has a permit.
he has a
Right,
farm
a
stand.
farm,
He does. He
flower
has a-
farm permit. You're just
correct, he has-
asking for special events.
Yes.
So what you're doing right now, we're not necessarily need to be.
Yeah, I was informed that the vendor fairs that we held last year were not in the scope of the agricultural use.
Okay.
That's my main concern, is being able to host an artisan vendor fair on our flower farm.
Understood. And I mean, I've been to your farm. I think it's lovely. And I think you guys do a great job with the parking flow for the amount of cars that were there when I was there. So it's just something that, anecdotally, so.
Thanks.
Yeah. So I just want to make, it's a good question. I just want to make it clear. So the current operations permitted use of right, it's a farm stand, and in Wethersfield, farm stands are allowed as a permitted use of right, provided the goods or the whatever is sold is grown or manufactured or produced on site. But the practice in Wethersfield has been that you can have a farm stand, and there, to some extent you have some other variety of locally produced goods or crafts or something, and it's been accepted that you're primarily selling something that's grown or produced on site. And for what I would say are good reasons, I became aware of he was very successful, or the applicant was very successful over the last year. It was drawing some good attention, some good publicity. I was attending a tourism and cultural commission, and they were saying, oh, we should celebrate this, we should advertise this, because it is bringing a lot of people, it celebrates, and I do agree with this too, it was sort of celebrating Wethersfield's agricultural heritage, it was bringing a sort of a collection of people to the town and otherwise wouldn't be here. So we were asked, what can we do to help support this seasonal agricultural business? And that's when I brought it to everyone's attention that it is currently only permitted as a farm stand, so at some point it's going to grow, which I think was what generally was desired, right, by the applicant, and also for the interested parties to say, oh, this is we should let this grow. Some other towns, it's been brought up, have actually created regulations for agritourism. And so for all those reasons, I did suggest, I would encourage you to position yourself to let the business grow, to get more publicity. And so I think that's what we're seeing. So for the applicant to be able to expand what is currently a farm stand into something larger, they're applying for the special permit. And the special permit does allow the commission to determine that similar uses can be approved as a special permit. So that's why the applicant is here before us. And I don't want to confuse this issue with the applicant, because this is not unique to the applicant, but I want to say it now versus staff comments. The other thing in Wethersfield, the pattern of practice, or the practice has been that when someone comes in for a temporary liquor permit or a temporary sales, the town has historically approved it for what we would call a one-off. It happens all the time, regularly. There's a special event, there's a tent. I don't know if it happens at the farmer's market, but I would imagine it happens for Corn Fest, Porch Fest. Anywhere that you see alcohol that does not have a permit is done through a temporary approval for a limited alcohol sales permit, and it's done sort of as a matter of course. However, planning and zoning signs off on it, or the zoning official, I should say, signs on it, police signs off it, and the fire marshal sign off on it. So all those checks are in place, and one of the reasons we saw this, which is what created some confusion, is that the emergency personnel saw the liquor permit and they got, rightfully so, was confused. Is this part of the special permit that's being applied for, or is this something different? And it's something different. But I just wanted to make that clear so that if anyone were to come to town and they apply for a temporary alcohol sales permit, it would generally be approved subject to the review of all those staff.
But to be clear, the applicant has said he's not seeking that, and I think if he were to in the future, he'd have to come back and try to amend his special permit, since it's a special permit use.
Yeah,
In other words, he
I agree,
couldn't
because
just
in this.
go and get a staff sign off on a liquor permit. is my
Because
point.
as part of the application, the commission is approving it with the understanding that alcohol sales is not part
Right,
of the event.
Right, exactly. Okay. Anyone in the public who would like to speak? Yes, sir, come up, please. And we'll come back to you after the public comment. You'll have a chance.
Good evening. I'm Tom Parker. I'm your neighbor. I live at 250 Elm Street. We have the horse farm at the end of the road. I'm all for you in regards to you have a great place. The girls go down. You're bringing traffic to Smitty and to everybody else. But I'm sitting back there scared for you to tell me that 400 cars can go down Elm Street safely. Last year, we couldn't get out of our driveway sometimes. Did great events. I'm not against you one bit. But to think, we live on the busiest dead-end street in the country. Between next door, now you guys, granted, it's good for the town. We're building the new water thing, so that's in my backyard every night. All I do is hear the trucks going in and out. Now you're gonna say we're gonna do events, and if you did 4 events, I don't think I'd have a problem with that, and if we knew it was going on. It scares me to say here, but not limited. So what's not limited? When you guys have to vote and you have to say something, you're gonna give somebody something for a year. And what's the parameters? Now, I didn't know, BYOB, that's a cool thing, I own a bar, and liquor scares the hell out of me. And we have horses on our farm. There's 13 kids. We have a great little neighborhood. We never had that. We never had kids at the end of our street. Now we have kids. And unfortunately, Morgan, a lot of people come out of your place hot, real fast. And I love that you said speed bumps. And I've also called the town to say let's put in speed limit signs. There is not one on our whole street. And you're right, Route 3 in Elm Street is probably one of the most dangerous intersections there are. Since I've been there since 1989, we've had 4 major T-bones where girls and guys have been hurt because people go right through the exit. They go right through coming off of 91 and they fly and they hit cars. I've complained, gone to DOT, and they slowed the whole timing down so it was a little safer. Now, for whatever reason, if you've noticed, it doesn't work right now. People are going through it. I witnessed the other day someone almost getting hit because the light takes so long. It's an issue. I love it though. For you to say speed bumps, I would love it. You got to tell Doug Morgan though. So it's just, there's a lot. You got a lot going on. And I would work with you. Trust me. I'm all for business. I've had my own business a long time. But this is, after what we just went through and listened to the whole thing with a neighborhood, it's not my neighborhood. This is where I live. You go home at night to your neighborhood. My neighborhood used to be nice and quiet. And now it's really busy. And you're right, there's a lot of other businesses on the street. And it's gotten to a point that it's our street is small and narrow. The other day, there was a pothole in the corner, had water in it. Lady drove in it. It was about 2 feet deep. She got stuck. And now with all the construction trucks coming up and down the street, Anderson's got all the tractors coming up and down the street. People don't understand coming out of their farm that this is a neighborhood. And it's not against you at all. It's just people in general. They just don't think. When I drive down the street and the Andersons are coming down, we pull over and we let them go by. Not normal people. One last thing. I'll bet you no one in this room has an idea of who has the right of way on a horse.
A horse.
And people are rude and don't get it. I've been knocked off a horse. I got a horse got hurt because people don't understand. So if people are coming out late at night and maybe we're going for a horseback ride, people don't get it. I just don't want to see someone get hurt. I don't want to see one of my horses get hurt. I've lost 2 dogs in that street, unfortunately. That's my fault because we let them run. But it's just, our little street is tiny and it's really busy for a dead-end street. I thank you for your time and good luck. I will sit and talk to you. I really will. 100%.
Thank you. Yes, please come up.
Jim Woodworth, 33 Mill Street, 5H. Good to see you guys are still here at this hour and this year in your lives. But anyway, I also walked to Wells School. I walked through the Robbinswood neighborhood when it was the woods, because it was a 1930s development in the Depression that stopped. I walked through Anderson's farm to get there. They built that basketball court they were talking about when I was in 6th grade going into 7th. I never got to play on it. But nevertheless, it's just phenomenal what this guy has done, and the effort he's put into it, and attracting all those people and so forth. But from the Andersons' point of view, they think back to those days when John Miller proposed the interchange zone, and and it was Chief Knapp who said, who got together the petition to have the referendum that defeated that, because and then Dave Anderson said to John Miller, thanks a lot for trying to steal my farm out from underneath me. So you can imagine if somebody's chipping away, as they were chipping away at the old neighborhood, chipping away at the farmland, which the Great Meadows Conservation Trust is dedicated since 1968 to protect. Dave, you didn't notify us. We are neighbors of this farm that this thing was happening tonight. I happened to hear it from the people. We need to be on that list every time you have it, including the time in the past when you changed whatever it is that the Chacho brothers had, which they did a wonderful job turning that land. Once we fought and defeated their, what was it? Their nursery, quote unquote, and their actual, what they wanted to do was the vehicle storage, like the one they had in Newington. It's so polluted they can't leave it. But anyway, we defeated that, and they went to the appeals court. He only lost by 1 vote, and that's when they did a wonderful job clearing that out. Lisa Gilbert, Rocky Hill farmer, is so appreciative of being able to farm that. But what happened over the last 6 months? You know that because you guys permitted it, right? You permitted them to start storing mounds of stone there, right?
I don't know that the commission's aware of that, to be honest with you.
Yes, why not? Good question.
I don't know that predates me. My understanding is that the MDC is using land temporarily for their staging for their main.
Oh, I didn't realize it was at Burns Construction.
Yeah.
And so there's policemen all up and down the Celestine Highway for safety purposes. Not one policeman for those young families on Elm Street. Not one. Every day, big dump trucks are coming in there. Every day. And the last few days, they've been shoveling the last bit of the topsoil that they dug up to clear that. And they've made a beautiful, what would be a 1-acre parking lot, which they should donate to the town in reparation for destroying the farmland. And I don't know, did they get a permit for that? We don't know either. So Dave, maybe over the next couple of days, when Derek and the others come back, you can find out what the applications were that were allowed for that, right? Because how can they do that? So that's really important to follow up on that. Sorry to keep ranting on and on here, but nevertheless, getting back to the application, the Andersons are concerned about all the parking 500 cars on farmland, compacting the soil. This is world-class soil. It's got plenty of water. Out west, they say we're independent, but yet they depend on our tax dollars for their water. We have water here, and this is great farmland. We can't lose another ounce of it, or a square foot of it, or cubic yard of it, or whatever. You proposed, you were talking about public transportation. Can you imagine? And he's concerned about the farms right on the street, right on that narrow street that don't have any parking except on the street. So maybe a little parking area, and maybe a horse-drawn wagon to take people down to the farm and back again as part of the experience would make sense. I think Mr. Smith was talking about maybe taking people on hay rides and so forth out in the meadows. So there's a lot of transportation possibilities that might save the lives of some little kids. And there really are little kids out there. So there's a potential. I think a one-year permit would allow these issues to be resolved to some extent. People really love that experience, everybody I've talked to. And we went out there. By the way, that was my grandfather's garden was out there. When I was a little kid, we used to go out there, Comstock Ferry Field. Grandpa was the president of Comstock Ferry. Dad married into the group, and the barn down there started on Broad Street as the one-room schoolhouse. The bricks ended up in Mr. Hammer's backyard. And the roof line went down to be the part of that barn, even though that's since been replaced, I'm sure. Anyway, it's all part of our community, and we can't let it be chipped away, as they were saying. And we have this wonderful community, so I really appreciate what you guys can do to keep on top of this. If you didn't know, somebody should have told you, because that's what you do, is permits. So we need to find out. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Yes.
Hello again. My name is Ivana Marrero, 525 Jordan Lane in Wethersfield. I'm also the Executive Director at the Chamber of Commerce, and I've lived in Wethersfield for 63 years. I'm here to express my strong support for the proposed 7-acre U-Pick vendor events. These events represent a wonderful opportunity to celebrate local agriculture, support small businesses, and further enhance the sense of community that makes Wethersfield such a special place. 7 acres is a valued asset to our town, and hosting these events would provide residents and visitors alike with a unique, family-friendly experience that aligns beautifully with Wethersfield's historic charm and welcoming atmosphere. A thoughtfully curated vendor event paired with the farm's U-Pick offerings would not only support local farmers and artisans, but also encourage visitors to explore our local shops, restaurants, and attractions. I know Wethersfield lately has been pushing a lot for tourism, and as a tourism perspective, events like this play an important role in drawing people from surrounding communities, increasing the foot traffic, and showcasing Wethersfield as a vibrant destination place to come and enjoy. These gatherings strengthen our local economy while fostering community pride and connection. He's only asking for 3 or 4 events for the whole year, right? So it's not like it's going to be every week or, yeah. So I believe these events would have a positive and lasting impact on the town, and I hope it will be given strong consideration and support. Again, thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Hello. I live on 224 Elm Street, and I've lived there for 30 plus years. Sharon Carew. Sure. There's 11 houses down there. We are a farm street. When we pull out of our driveway, like the other gentleman said, you have to pull off to the side of the road if a tractor's coming down the road, or the big trucks now. I talked to you last year. I like what you're doing. It's the point of the traffic. It's no outlet street, so they have to come down and go back up. They closed off the gate, and only the farm people have the key for it. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. The bus can't even go down there and turn around, so the two little girls that live across the street from me have to walk up to the Jehovah's Witness church in order to get their bus. There's no turnaround at the end of the road. There is just enough room for two vehicles, not big vehicles, to go up and down that road. We had a lot of events last year. They were on the weekend, and there was a lot of cars. Kids can't play in the street anymore, and it's just an accident waiting to be happen. There's no speed. There's grooves on the road. I mean, it's an old street. Talking about the light at the end of the street, I've had my son get hit, T-boned. We all know in that neighborhood to wait 3 to 5 seconds when that light turns green in order to go through. I've had cars fly behind me as I'm going through the light. I've had people do U-turns in the middle of there. So it's dangerous. And I can't foresee people that don't know about this. You're going to have accidents. I've had cars stop and then wait till I go through and come behind me on a red light. So I'm just, this extra traffic, if there was a way for them to use to get out another way instead of coming up and back, I'd, say, oh, great. But this was every weekend, and now we're talking about big venue events. Our street cannot hold it. It cannot. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Yes.
Hi, members of the commission. My name is John House. I'm at 21 Elm Street, and I would like to take a moment to voice some concerns about the special permit application at 7 Acres Farm. For me, the biggest thing is safety as it relates to vehicles and pedestrians. Elm Street is a narrow, underbuilt road. It completely lacks storm drains, catch basins, and sidewalks. Plus, it has no curbs to support the edges, and it lacks a heavy stone base. To add to the mix, the risky intersection of Route 3 and Elm and the constant dump truck traffic, I would say Elm Street is already overburdened and unsafe. I believe it was back in 2015, a company on Elm Street was requesting a zoning change that would ultimately allow heavy equipment and dump trucks on Elm Street. It was my understanding that the lead factor in denying this application was the fact that Elm Street, being of substandard construction, could not safely support the trucking activities. Despite these facts, we currently have a situation where the town is allowing tri-axle dump trucks to run up and down Elm Street. This is an unsafe practice and should be stopped. But really, not all that different from having a fairgrounds at the end of the street that would support up to 500 cars. It is also a location where alcohol will be consumed. First and foremost, the road being in an AG zone is for farm equipment. But now, hearing from the other residents that live right next door, I now know that it's a neighborhood with kids. A tractor with a disc harrow on it is very wide. When it meets a single car or even a pedestrian, one of the parties has to give way. Now add the dump truck traffic and proposed hundreds of cars flowing in and out of the 7 acres farm, it could quickly turn into a disaster. There is only one way in and one way out of Elm Street and the 7 acre farm. If there was ever an issue, emergency responders would have great difficulty accessing the site. Now, if the customers start parking on the road, things just got worse. I have a few other points I'd like to make. Parking hundreds of cars on fertile land. Well, that land is no longer fertile. And we're talking, it was over 4 acres, 4-acre lot, and then 2 lots from last year. So that's quite a bit. The parking and driving areas will become compacted and contaminated. This will cause long-term damage unless extensive and expensive remediation is performed. Number 2, allowing this special zoning permit could set a dangerous precedent. Approving food trucks, brew fest, which may be off the board now, but who knows in the future. There's plans to have weddings there, so that's going to be more than 4 events per year. Music events, vendors, on AG land. This is stretching the definition of zoning way past its limit. Approving this creates a precedent where any AG landowner can try to bypass commercial and business use rules. There's also the contamination along Elm Street itself. As mentioned before, Elm Street is underbuilt. Contaminants like fluids leaking from cars and brake dust will run off the road during rain events, this further contaminating soil of the meadows. There was mention about speed bumps. I'm pretty sure Jared his tractors would rip up any speed bumps that were there. Just not on purpose, just the way those tractors are designed. You have Burns Construction down there. I also understand Ducaccio might have millings down there as well. I see Ducaccio trucks going down there still. So one last thing. I feel that all Elm Street residents should have been notified of this application. I only found out yesterday afternoon by word of mouth. And it sounds like Jim also wasn't notified, and he has adjoining land, right? Okay. If possible, please include all Elm Street residents in future notifications for any and all zoning applications that would impact Elm Street and Great Plain Road. Thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Yes.
Hi, Commissioners. My name is Jared Christensen. I'm one of the owners of Anderson Farms, along with David and Chris Anderson. Morgan didn't mention us, but we are one of the farms on Elm Street. We actually have the most abutting land to Elm Street. I just have a couple of concerns. Again, Morgan, I'm all for farming, obviously, I'm a farmer, but some of the concerns that I have, I mean, the traffic has been mentioned multiple times from many people. 400 to 500 cars going down that street. It's not a standard width road. I believe it's only 18 feet wide. Some of our implements are 12 feet wide, so automatically people going in both directions, someone's got to pull over. I know Winding Brook Turf has even wider implements than we do, so that is a concern with that many. You know, you get the residents living on that street coming down once in a while, it's not an issue. You have 500 cars coming in and out all day with different people driving tractors down, becomes an issue. Mr. Hammer, I know you also mentioned the light issue among other people. That is one of my concerns as well. That light is not suited for that amount of traffic. It's not suited for the amount of traffic that it gets now. You know, it's a very dangerous intersection. I've gotten almost hit quite a few times going through there on tractors. I don't know what the solution to that problem is with that light, but I think that's something that not only needs to be solved for this application, but in general anyway, to alleviate any possible accidents. I do like the idea of decreasing the speed on that road. People fly around. There's no speed limit signs or anything. Like John House said, speed bumps with some of our implements won't work. They only get maybe 2 inches off the ground. I don't know if there's other measures that can be taken to reduce speed with infrastructure there. Speed bumps would not work for our implements, and I don't know, but I would assume Weinenbrook Turf may also have some issues with that, but I don't want to speak for them. Another concern of mine that hasn't been brought up, we at Anderson Farms have farmed in the Descenza property for many years now, and I know that that gate is only 1 car wide. 2 cars cannot pass through the gate to get in there at the same time, causing some sort of bottleneck with people coming in and out. Again, I don't know how to mitigate that issue, but that is an issue because it will cause backup traffic on both ends in the farm and into the road with people trying to get in. Like John and Jim mentioned, the parking on 4 acres of very fertile farmland is a concern of mine. I don't know all the exact environmental implications of that, but I think that's something that should be looked into, as it is great farmland down there. And finally, all of the land on Elm Street there that is agriculture is zoned as floodplain agricultural land. Zoning something down there differently may open the floodgates to other people trying to get in there and zone things, you know, that don't have an intention, like Morgan here, you know, people trying to get commercial zoning, or, you know, what kind of, I haven't looked into the exact description of fairgrounds, but what does that exactly entail can happen down there in the future. So I just wanted to voice some of my concerns, you know, going up and down that road every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anybody else like to speak? All right, seeing none, any questions from the commission? I know that we're going to continue this pending some additional info from police and fire, but does anybody have any questions right now of the applicant? And would you like to say anything at this point? You're welcome to.
A couple points were brought up. There's no sewers. Actually, on Great Plain, there are sewers. The road originally was paved, and there are storm drains installed. So that's one. The fertile land can be reversed. We don't spray any chemicals on our farm. We are one of the only farms on the road that don't spray any harmful chemicals. And the land is the Descenza family farmland. So I am currently leasing it. So the agricultural purposes of me using that property, if I choose to park a piece of equipment on it, should be my choice. And then the speed, I totally agree with. The road is 2 cars wide. But if my traffic is a problem, then I feel like there should be no parking signs on the side of the road, which would now cause issues for the other businesses on the road because they have 0 parking. So those other farm stands that people are going to come visit, no one will be able to allow to park. So there are big pieces of equipment that go down the road. It is a farming zone. That's what it's zoned for. I think the big thing that's of concern is this construction site that is being used as a laydown yard that seems to have been a problem for a long time for the residents, and no issue has been taken care of that. So seems like there's some other complaints, but I have no say in Winding Brook's dump trucks, DiCiacchio's dump trucks. I have regular cars that are allowed on a town road, and that's all I'd like to say.
Chris, I just have one question. You know, you had said you made an estimate based on some numbers you found for the cars that you think would come through. You made that estimate based on like actual like clicker data that you had, like numbers that like you counted the cars that had come in, or that you kind of just said like, we think we're going to have this many people for an event, so we think it'll be this many cars.
No, we, at the end of the season, going through, our parking guys would always say, hey, look at that license plate, they're from here. And we would see the lots fill up, and I finally went and bought the clickers.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then do you have any other examples of like, you know, you mentioned that there's agritourism in other places and some other things. Do you have anything kind of at this scale where you could more accurately kind of point to and say, this is how they manage traffic, or this is how they, you know, because especially along the Connecticut River, you mentioned Glastonbury a lot, like there's a lot of those agritourism uses, but do you have any other sort of examples that might have that kind of a scale for special events or things like that?
I mean, off the top of my head, I know there's another large flower farm in the state, and she also does U-Pick, music, and other things. She's called Willowview Farm, but she is not in the Connecticut River Valley area. The farms in Glastonbury, you know, not to compare, but they do a lot of business and they get a lot of traffic for their apple picking, and they park on the road and you can barely get by. So to have the off-street parking such as me, I felt like that was going to be a better situation. But no, I don't have a good example to give you right now.
That's good. That helps. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, Dave, you going to say something?
Yeah. Maybe just as a group. How do we, you have a road that's so small, cars can't go back and forth. I'm not comfortable approving this. That's ridiculous. If you have, you know, there's 14 people living there is one thing, but if we're going to have a road that, again, 2 cars can't do this all day, then we, so, I mean, do we talk to the police department, have some input or something like that before we go far?
So before we got this far, we had to determine, before we could put a sign on the road, the history of Great Plain Lane is that this was an unimproved paper street. It appeared on a map. It was never dedicated or adopted or accepted by the town.
Private, so it's a private road.
Then the state took it as part of the 291 interchange. They took it, and then they gave it back to the town with a deed and a map as a local road. It is included in the town's town aid road lane mile inventory, which many unimproved roads are. And so that is what it is, and that is likely what it's going to remain for a long time. And so I would suggest that we should assume, the commission should assume that whether this application is approved or not, that nothing in addition to the street sign is going to happen anytime soon that otherwise wouldn't happen to the road. We just found out it was a town road, and it's a floodplain, and it gets, you know, it is used as a farm road, and you know,
I'd be less concerned about the flooding and all that stuff, but the idea you just can't have 2 cars doing this.
Dave, to Dave's point is, we look at other situations where we have traffic studies that tell us how dangerous something. I mean, here we have literally a little farm road with lots of cars. How are we to assess on this commission the safety of that? I can't figure that out.
Well, I think, you know, one thing I think we could do is police chief, fire marshal, and town engineer, can they all try to address some of the comments we heard tonight about 2 cars passing and the potential volume of cars, and tell us what they think?
Right.
I'm also going to this is a good point, because I also see an ideal with the enforcement side of conditions, whether they're intentional or unintentional. And as this commission knows, currently, this activity, very similar, has been going on for a year as a farm stand, and that will continue to occur. A special permit with conditions and reviews actually allows for greater oversight than what currently could be happening. I just want to propose that, and to think about that is, as a farm stand currently, that the existing, they can continue to operate the way they have, which apparently, you know, has been noticed, but with a special permit, there are more controls in place than the current condition. But I understand, yes, the answer is yes. I will talk to the town engineer, all the emergency personnel, but I wanted to bring that up.
To your point, if they're operating as a farm stand and continue to do that, then you have to enforce that, right?
Well, we have been. There's been no
So I mean, if
question
people
as to that.
complain that 300 cars a weekend are there and it's just a farm stand, that's an enforcement issue.
Right.
Whereas-
Call the police. We would say you should call the police if there's an issue with
Whereas the
traffic.
special permit is proposing an expansion into the special events formally beyond what a mere farm stand would be. It gets into what's the use, right?
Yeah, I mean, and
Rich and then Tom. Rich
There
had
you
started,
go.
or Tom and then Rich, okay.
I have I don't know whether you'd call it prediction or an assumption on this, but no matter what happens on this particular application, I think we would be wise to assume that the intensity of use of this particular road, this particular area, is over time bound to increase. And, it behooves the wisdom of the town fathers to, consider that issue as the price of progress, however you want to define progress becoming. But that, this application, I don't think is going to manifestly increase the dangers that aren't already inherent in the site. And it's probably beyond the purview of this commission to address those matters, other than to assume that, that the dangers are there and that over time they're going to increase.
Yeah, although, Tom, we are being asked to increase parking from 100 to 400, and I think with that comes more potential. But
I think we should get some input from the police or
Yes,
something like that,
yes.
just the basics thing, to see if they, it's gonna be crappy, but they can maybe live with that. I just don't wanna have Saturdays just jammed up everywhere.
Right, Rich, you were going to say.
People live there.
yeah, I mean, my thought was similar to what Tom was saying, which is basically, the problem seems to be with Elm Street and the uses that go on there in light of the condition of the road. And I think we can't blame the people who live there or work there for the fact that the road has not been improved or maintained for 100 years. By the same token, would we be better off if we spent several $1 million to improve it to a, 22-foot wide?
It just got improved 10 years ago. And it's beat up already in 10 years. I'm sorry to interrupt.
I mean, I guess the question is, we would probably be having different problems on the road if it was improved and maintained so that people could drive faster and, past each other and so forth, rather than kind of creating a situation where everybody has to be careful.
I personally like the way it is. Like I said, I ride my bike down there. It's a nice farm road, and it's not very intense. There's a few houses there. Yes, there's a lot of trucks that go by. You got to be careful. But I think it's got character. I'd hate to see that road improved. Now, the question in my mind is, given that situation, I don't see that we need to improve anything. Can it take on 300, 400 more cars? Is that safe? That's all I want to know. And I can't figure that out. So I'm asking the town to tell me that, yes, it's okay, Pete. It can take 300, 400 more in the condition that it's in now. Then I can make a decision based on what this gentleman has proposed, which I think is a great idea. I'd love to see it happen, but I want to make sure it's safe.
So can you,
Let's put an extra 91 for them.
can you,
Right on.
town engineer, police, fire,
Yes.
and give them all the information that was presented tonight? That would be helpful. Okay, so we'll continue this.
Motion to continue.
Okay, is there a second?
Until, do we continue 2 weeks or will it take longer than that, Dave?
I think we should
Try for 2, and we could always.
2 weeks unless there's a need to stagger some of the matters, which.
But I think Chris's question was, can you get all that
Yeah,
input in
yes.
time?
Yeah, and I think his flowers are going to grow
Right.
faster than the new parking lot.
Meeting in July, because it seems like we're asking the applicant to work with the various town staff and town departments to come up with this, a safety plan for.
But he's going to work in July. He can't,
Right, I think
he can't do his business if we go that far. No,
shouldn't
no.
have any effect, because then he can go with this, one-off permit, special permit thing for.
I think we should. I think we should just continue it to June 2nd. If we don't have the information that we need, we'll deal with it then and figure out what to do. But let's hope we can get it together for June 2nd.
Change his growing pattern, it's just parking.
It's really just, I think it's really the town staff
Yeah,
input
we're not going
that is
to dig
crucial.
cores. I can't imagine
Right.
we're going to do cores on the road.
So I guess, who made the
Yeah,
motion?
motion to continue this
meeting.
public hearing till.
Is there a second?
July
Second.
June
Second, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, thank you. All right, number 3. huh?
Number 3 is easy after this. Number 3 is easy. We've been
Yep.
talking about this for a long time. I think everyone is aware of this.
Application 2233 zoning text amendment in accordance with section 10.1.f of the Wethersfield Zoning Regulations to amend the affordable housing section of the regulations submitted by the Town of Wethersfield. Dave, could you present this to us?
I will. And so I'm happy to do so. So as we discussed when we looked at the last round of regulations, there were discussion of affordable housing, including, I won't go into it, but we talked about inclusionary zoning, which allows inclusionary zoning and density bonuses, which allows a developer to, actually, I think the inclusionary zoning, I thought it was interesting that you could actually require a fee in lieu of building affordable units that could go into some sort of a trust that the town could then use through its housing authority or some other entity to replace or build or improve affordable housing units. Very complex. There was not an easy model for us to consider. And so we ended up doing at the time, which I think was great, we established a 10% minimum requirement for any multifamily development, which we now have. However, I think that was the bare minimum of what we could do. And the reason that I am suggesting this is because Wethersfield is very close to the 10% target that was set by the legislature. And in fact, last year, I think we were at 9.57%. And the reason that I think it's timely to consider something above 10% is because 10% just keeps us at the status quo, so, which is good. We don't go behind anymore, but we also don't get ahead. And there are discussions currently, we just saw in the most recent legislative session, where there is a much stronger demand in the market for residential development, not so much commercial, so much so that we're seeing a conversion of commercial by right. The legislature was entertaining and still is conversions of commercial properties to residential by right, which whichever side you land on the housing affordability crisis, is it real, is it not real, is it meaningful for Wethersfield in particular? You are very close to the 10%, and so maintaining the status quo at 10% is great. However, getting above that would require some additional percentage above 10% to make incremental progress towards reaching the 10%. Why would multiple commissioners said, why would we ever do this? Why would we ever require more affordable housing? And there's a couple different ways to consider that. One, do you believe there's a need for affordable housing? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. 2, why would we want to put this burden on developers? The reason that I think that it's important to put this burden on developers is because residential development, as this commission knows more so than others, residential development can and very usually is some type of a burden. There's a benefit because you have children, you have families, people move into town, they buy things, you have a younger generation, you have a generational community which has a lot of intrinsic and real value to having a mixed generational family community. That's the benefit of having affordability and why you want to have variation amongst your housing stock. Financially, for a developer, the benefit is you want to increase your density. The more units you have, the more profits you get, which is good. The cost side to the municipality is providing services. I think we all know in Wethersfield to be true, and it's just something that we don't consider in our site plans and our special permits generally because we're not supposed to, but there is a cost. And the largest cost generally is providing services. And I don't just mean the Board of Education or the schools, but that is the largest, but you also provide all kinds of services to a residential development that you don't to a commercial. So there's a cost anytime there's increased residential development. And the reason I bring this up is most importantly, and this is one of the things I love about New England and I love about Connecticut, is home rule. And so I was asked, why would I ever want to put this burden on a developer? And one of the reasons is because once you achieve a 10%, you are protected to the extent that you can be from an appeal from a developer who could propose a development that does not conform or comply with your zoning regulations, who would win on a matter of right. So for example, you love your home in Wethersfield, you have a single family home, there's a 2-acre lot to your left and there's a 2-acre lot to your right. You like those single family homes to your right and to your left. In the absence of a 10% target that you've achieved, there is a very real risk that the lot to your left and the lot to your right could be developed through an appeal process into a 6 or 4 unit multifamily development. And so the reason that I would suggest that this is a win-win, if you will, is that it achieves a greater affordability for the town of Wethersfield to achieve a lot of current, there's a need for affordability, we hear, for a housing crisis, so it achieves that, and it also protects and preserves your existing zoning regulations and allows you to continue to regulate the way you see fit as the commission your development without being subject to an appeal. So whether or not the numbers that I am suggesting here are correct, 14, 16, and 20, the policy intent behind this is to make incremental progress towards something above the minimum of 10%, and you're very close to that.
Could you clarify our existing regulation, which we adopted, I think, within the past 12 months, applies only to 10 or more unit developments, number one, correct? And you're looking to reduce that to start at 5. And what it basically does is for 10 or more units, it just applies a straight across the board requirement that 10% of the units in the development must be affordable, whether it's 300 units or 11 units, right?
Correct.
So, I'm just going to throw out there some thoughts. I guess one is, should we be imposing this on, somebody who's only got 5 to 9, I guess is one question. And another one is, if we're going to make it higher, how high could it go? And, should you could keep it at 10 to 20 at 10%, you can do a bunch of different things, basically, but I think you really have to give thought to it. What size development, what number of units should it even kick in to begin with? And I guess for 11 to 19 units is, should they have a heavier burden at whatever figure than the 5 per 10, because I'm just not sure how all those economics work, basically. But I think your point is overall, if we get several 200-plus unit developments with only 10%, your concern is that we actually go backwards in our efforts to meet the...
Well, we're going to make this all 15%, be done with it.
Right now, you mean?
Yeah.
Instead of, that's an option, and keep it at 10 or more units applies?
50% is done, then when we hit that 10%, we'll address it again and move on with our lives.
Right.
You can do that. You can have this. The zoning regulations are meant to, in my opinion, evolve and they should adapt to the conditions.
I prefer the simple approach that Dave's came up with. It seems a little bit more...
Which Dave?
Okay.
This Dave.
Commissioner Drake.
The Dave in the peach. The Dave in the peach.
I mean, I think Dave's is definitely simpler. You could argue if it's a large, if it's 100 or more units, should that developer be hitting 20 instead of it could be 10 to 99 or something is 15%, and then it goes to 20 again, all things that you could do.
How is it harder or easier for a guy with a big use place to get to a higher number?
Maybe easier, I think.
What?
For the bigger complex, maybe he can absorb it.
I think it's harder too. So I think it's going the wrong way.
I don't know.
Bigger place should have a smaller percentage.
Well, I mean, in the bigger place, if they can't live with this, they'll just do an 830G. What I
Does
want.
the 830G go away if we get all 10% over?
Ultimately, if we get
Yeah.
the town to 10%
That's
overall.
what I
We
said.
stay at,
Right.
Well,
But also,
yeah,
if they're going to do an
I'm good with
830G, they're going to have a higher
Rich,
number
I
anyway.
think 15 across the board, like Dave suggested. Still making it more attractive, even 20 is more attractive to the developer because 8-30G requires 30%, right?
So I was just going to say, the graduated scale, when I do it at like different numbers, it doesn't actually work out that way, like, because you round up the fractions. So like, even at like 14%, 5 units, you have to round up that partial 1 unit to 1 unit, so now it's 20%. So the flat rate that's just higher makes more sense.
If he doesn't make it like the bathroom, we have to have coin things, so I have to pay more to get in. Because it's not affordable.
I think this makes,
I think what you're hearing is, yes, we should increase it.
yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense.
But maybe just have a single number, is what we're saying.
What I am hearing a large consensus around the proposed straight fixed 15% for any multifamily housing development over 10 units,
10 or more.
10 or more units.
At least that. At least 15%.
Yeah, 50. I'd go for
I'd
20.
favor 20, so.
Yeah. And I
I'd
guess
be
I'm
okay
going to
with
raise,
22.
I don't know, to me, and you bring up a really good point, Rich, but I guess even if it's 20%, is a developer really going to want to go to 30% and go outside of our regulations? Because that's, the economics are more demanding of the developer in that situation than the 20, right?
yeah, I mean, I guess it all comes down to what in our regulations is the developer trying to avoid, and it might just be what zone it's in as opposed to,
In other words, it could be the
height or
bulk and,
width or something like
I mean,
that.
it could be that it's in a residential zone that doesn't allow high intensity and he wants
You
to
get the
just,
right thought, though. If a guy comes in with 10 units and you put in 15%, he's got to put in 20.
Round up, yeah.
Right.
I mean, we're fighting just a lot of junk, I don't know. I also believe the guy Jordan Lane, when we tried to get him to go to, 10? He said,
Said I'll walk.
yeah, I walk it.
although that's also that's the common developer response, I think.
No, I can't make that work.
It's a hard business.
Right.
Yeah.
So are we saying, we're saying one size fits all for 10 or more units without having a separate higher standard for the 100 or more? I guess that's point 1. And then point 2 is, should the standard be, if it's an across the board standard, 15 or 20?
What I'm
First off,
hearing
should
is
there be a-
15% up to 100 units and 20% for anything over 100.
I'm asking the question. Do you want one across the board for just 10 or more period, or do you want to have a higher standard for the larger development?
I have no problem with the higher standard because I don't want any larger developments, so maybe they'll keep knocking them out.
Be okay with
I
that.
don't want 200 unit apartment building and stuff. I know it's the last thing we need.
So 15,
Well, how many units are on the board?
Oh, yeah.
160 or something?
I don't know, but there's 160 in Jordan Lane, and there's some numbers of parcels nearby of 220, accommodating 220.
Jordan Lane would have probably walked.
I don't know that Jordan Lane is a good example because of the amount of sunk costs that were already in that project. I don't want to speak for the developer, but my understanding is that there was already a lengthy litigation. You had a constructed building in a floodplain. I'm not sure that's a great. Yeah,
There's a lot of hair on
You
it.
gotta rip the old one down. That was a lot.
But I guess, so if it's a 200 unit complex, at 15%, you're getting 30 units, and at 20, you're getting 40 units, right? I mean, that's what it
All right,
means.
say it again, so we can close this meeting.
So to capture what I think I heard, the proposal would be to continue with a current requirement for the affordability to apply for any multifamily housing development over 10 units at 15% until a threshold count of 100 or more units, which would increase the required percentage to 20%.
with me.
See what the public thinks.
Two-stage affair.
Or the
15 and
the
20.
alternative is go 20 across the board for 10 or more.
All right.
That's,
I'm gonna wrap on
Because the
that.
15 at 10 gets rounded. Are we gonna continue this?
no, I think I'm hearing a large consensus here. It's, is there any?
Do you need a vote on it?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, we need to hear
We
from
have to do
the
it.
public.
Hear from the
Yeah, we have
public.
to do a hearing on it,
Motion,
right?
but let me can't go to that yet. But by the way, whatever we do under DA, does this 10% number need to be changed where it says basic requirements? If there's 10 or more units, shall designate a minimum number of dwelling units of not less than 10%. That's now being changed, so that
Correct,
has
yes.
to change.
Yes. It will change
Potentially.
throughout. It will change consistently with this proposal. So any reference to the 10, yes. I understand.
Oh, I see. So on a 50-unit complex, 15 becomes
doing the math.
7.5
Just
rounded
read
to
it.
8, or 20 would be 10. 20%
Yes, you
would
would
come
round
out to
up.
10.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm almost questioning whether it should just be 20
It doesn't, right, because it doesn't make any
across
sense.
the board.
Yeah.
If it's, the 15% is going to be 20 units, no
Right.
matter what you do to some high number, so
Could you
just do
also,
20.
what did some of the other towns you looked at
Doesn't
have?
make any sense, right?
Glastonbury has
10 units,
14.
1.5.
14, and they also allow for a graduated scale, and it was a bit, I found it was up to 80. So there was a density bonus that was related up to 80, I don't want to say 80%, and I don't want to mischaracterize it, but there was a graduated scale and they did allow for a density bonus. So the higher the number, the larger the percentage of affordability, which...
But without a density bonus in Glastonbury, the highest it got was what?
14%. I believe it was 14%, including single-family homes, I believe. But just keep in mind, this Glastonbury is very far behind Wethersfield.
No trouble.
With one development, of a large development that is possible in Wethersfield, you could get to the 10% with a larger number. Then you could revisit the 10%. The 20%.
Right.
Right. I think you have thereby protected yourself from an 8-30G appeal, which I am saying as diplomatically as I can.
Well, I think
you're close, so you should position yourself for that as soon as possible.
I think to me, the relevant issue is, are we trying to create more affordable housing under our regs where we're moving backwards without having our own standard, right? The affordable housing statute it's out there, but I think our motivation if we move forward is, do we want to be continually falling behind, which we are.
And of course, providing the much-needed affordable housing that the state is clearly in dire need of.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and since none of our affordable housing is deed restricted, it's all contingent on
The Housing Authority.
the housing authority and people not refinancing their FHA loans.
Point, right? We fluctuate significantly every year because of that. It's a good point, yeah. I'm hearing a consensus around the 20% now. I'm waiting for someone else to make it. There seems to be, and I know, this is an important topic, but we've spoken about this many
Are
times.
we
So
talking a straight 20% now?
that's, yes.
Just to be clear, straight 20%.
I'm trying to keep up with the chair.
All
I'm
right.
trying to keep up with the chairman.
I think we're falling asleep.
Just make it easy for developers too, so
The guy
just
comes
make it
in-
easy to just.
Let's just go straight 20%.
Just make it easy, you come in, you say, this is what the rules are.
Yes,
If
20%.
we break that.
Let's just do that.
Once you decide it.
Straight through.
So what is the motion that has to be made?
This is a serious decision we're making. Our regs are changed and
Audience.
written in stone unless we
Which we
change them
don't have
again,
tonight.
so
Yeah.
we
So,
got to
but
give.
If a guy comes in with a 100-unit
Yeah.
thing, and he says, I can't do 20, I can do 15, can we change that then for him?
No.
Okay, so it's fit, whatever we're doing now, this is it.
Correct.
Wow, okay, it's a big deal.
Why don't we just stick with 15? Like,
so,
Yeah, I agree, just stay with the 15.
so David, can I just, so why is it in why would we want to entertain that development?
The guy comes in with this beautiful unit with
A residential development. I just want to be
No,
clear.
I'm talking about a 100-unit apartment building, which is, it's not gonna be a residential. There's no residential left here. Where are you gonna get someone building 10 houses?
Well,
in
what kind of
Wethersfield?
apartments are they going to live in if it's not residential?
Oh, I thought you meant homes.
Yes.
Okay, no
Yes.
apartments. So if a guy comes in with a 100-unit thing, which is really beautiful, and the guy goes, I can't do 20, I want 15. So because, well, you can't do it, you gotta walk away. So he walks away.
And if they walk away,
Is that a
what
bad
do you
thing?
lose? Yeah, is it a bad thing?
If it's really nice, it's a bad thing, yeah.
What, nice as in?
I have no idea.
That's, okay.
I would say we have no options. If a guy goes, I'm gonna build a piece of crap, it's 100 units, I make 20%, you can't stop him, right?
I had to do some math.
Yeah.
And in order for the budget to net, right, in terms of just your grand list, right, just to be a wash, where there's no, in order for the town to be able to cover its cost based on the property taxes, every residential unit, every apartment, every size, whether it's new, whether it's old, needs to generate and be assessed at, and not assessed because that's just a fraction, the mill rate's assessed. You need to capture just over $11,000 for every single residential unit. Far from that. You are far from that. And the reason I bring that up, this is important, and this is why I just, from a policy, put on your policy hats, right? And this is where we're not allowed to talk about net income and money and finances, but if you just look at that. So you see a growth in residential development, right? And you see a decline in non-residential development. Yet the cost of supporting that residential development far exceeds the cost of the commercial. Who's going to pay for that cost if it's not the growth in the non-residential development? See that?
Yeah.
So, and that's not true to just Wethersfield. Since 1980, when I started here, I looked at all the plans going back to the 50s. You can see a slow deterioration in the grand list for the amount of money captured from the non-residential tax base. And that's true of not just Wethersfield, but everywhere. And so in the absence of a commensurate growth in your non-residential tax base to offset the additional cost of providing service to the residential, you're always losing. It's growing too fast.
So I'm going to make a motion here, right? 10 or
Close
more.
the hearing.
10 or more.
Tell us what you're thinking before we close. Sandra is the only person out there, no members of the public, just for the record. But we can still, okay, so there's no public.
There's no public, right? I think we should just go with a straight 15%, 10 or more.
10 or
And
more
then-
units.
And then just call it a night with that. I think that's a reasonable point to just settle on. That's my motion.
Are we first going to move to close the hearing?
A motion to close the
Or do we want to
public
have
hearing.
more ability to do anything?
Chris just made a motion.
Okay, second.
Move to close, second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Crystal, you'll be seated on this one. Okay, aye, hearing is closed. Peter, motion again?
Again, I'll repeat my motion, a 15% straight for 10 or more units.
Second to that?
Second.
Chris, any discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Oh, and we must set an effective date as part of our motion here, because it's got to be in the newspaper no later than 1 day prior to the effective date in town clerk's office and all that stuff. So let's give ourselves adequate time. And I don't know whether Memorial Day is going to mess up the rare reminder in terms of the cutoff.
We publish on a Tuesday, it gets published on the Thursday, so,
But what's today?
June 1st is a Monday.
so that gives us, let's see, Tuesday. Third, what is,
You need until June 5th, Friday?
yes.
I mean, is that okay? Yeah. And that means you gotta Actually, you've got a little bit of cushion, right? Because you could get it out on Monday, June 1st, and it would still be published on the 5th. Okay. All right, so that's incorporated into our action, effective date of June 5th. All right.
Yep.
All right. Any other business? Let's see. Minutes of May 5th. Somebody like to move on those?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay. Public comment? No public. Correspondence? I don't think there's any correspondence. Staff reports?
I don't have any, I apologize for not having the commissioner training inventory. I apologize, I said I would, and I don't have that.
Okay.
So I apologize for that. The only thing I did want to comment there was twice tonight, someone brought up the fact that they were not notified, and that the town should notify them. I just want to make it clear that we do use the GIS. We measure, and we measure 300 feet from the location of all the property lines, which is measured from the perimeter of all the property lines. And so the abutter list that is populated is who has sent the notification. And I will say further that we do that as a courtesy to the applicant, and I make it very clear that they are welcome to review it, change it, modify it, but it is their, they are required to notify the abutters. We do that as a courtesy, but we can provide the proof of how we measured the distances of the 300 feet every time that we do it.
Okay. How about a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?